Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is world famous firearms attorney, Benjamin Blatt. How's it going, man?
I cannot complain.
Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm very excited to talk to you. I've seen you, in the chat and stuff like that. And of course we did, it was a while back. We went over one of your letters, I think, to the ATF or something like that.
Yeah, it was a couple of trials ago.
Yeah. So we'll have to, maybe we can revisit that, but we are here today to talk about gun law, to talk about not gun law, and to talk about this new regulation that is hitting the it's finally going to stop those ghost guns. That's what it's going to do. The rash of ghost guns murdering people in their sleep across the entire country. Joe Biden and the ATF have a solution that is definitely not targeted at lawful gun home manufacturers. It is really intended to stop the illegal gun trade, and I think it'll be very effective. So we're gonna get into that as we go. But first, a very small amount of housekeeping. Today was day 2 in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Tomorrow will be day 3. It will be the final day of trial this week. So you can join me starting at 8:30-ish a.m. For that. It should be 8 hours of glory. Again, it runs until about 4 o'clock Central Time. And then I, run a little longer, wrapping everything up. But that will be tomorrow. And then Friday is a day off from the trial. So there may not be a day stream because I might just be sleeping the entire day. But we'll see. Other than that, here we are. Mr. Benjamin Blatt, would you please introduce yourself to the chat a little bit? Let us know who you are, why you're on the show, all of that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm a gun lawyer in Indiana. I didn't necessarily start out to do this, but I was into guns long before I went to law school. I graduated from the University of Alabama School of Law in 2009, and that was a horrible time in the job market. So I went to work for myself and just kind of started pissing off people enough left and right that I'm still working for myself. And along the way, I got a taste for pissing off the ATF. And in fact, I wish there was a good way. I should have taken a picture of him earlier. My favorite ATF story is actually not the infamous letter. Several years ago, I decided to redesign my business card. And for grins and giggles, I put on the back the common saying that alcohol, tobacco, and firearms should be a convenience store. And about a week after I got my new business cards in, I had a sit-down meeting with a bunch of ATF officials for one of my clients. And I was just handing them my business card without really thinking about what was on it. And that kind of set the tone for the meeting. Oops.
Uh-oh. How'd the meeting go?
Not particularly well, but better than it should have gone. My client didn't go to prison, which is always a win for me.
Oh, that's a win. That's when you're in felony territory, that is the win, right? Like
Yes.
That's where you go. Like, I don't care if you're saddled with 87 felonies if I keep you out of prison. But no, that's good. That's good. I agree. It should be a convenience store. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. The three most regulated substances you can really find in various ways. Or I should say the 3 most regulated legal substances you can find. And regulated solely for the purposes of making the government have arbitrary authority over people's lives for partaking in them. It's a weird thing. But anyway, so you are you're basically a gun attorney. Like this, is that the majority of your practice, or do you do conventional like criminal defense? How's that developed?
It's not the majority of my practice. It's what I prefer to do. The majority of my practice is still corporate law. I do outside counsel for some local corporations. I do some landlord tenant work. I do some criminal defense. Most of that's just outside consulting on firearm issues.
Sure.
And basically, I tell people I do any bit of law except for bankruptcy and complex tax.
Okay.
If they'll pay me, I'll do it. But I prefer to do the firearm work because it's always enjoyable to get guns into people's hands or to keep them from losing their guns.
Absolutely. And I fully agree. And I think it's weird. I don't understand the abrogation and the acceptance of the abrogation of the Second Amendment in general. Like it is, I think Clarence Thomas called it a disfavored amendment in the Supreme Court, and that is pretty obvious. Um, because it's like, wait, you guys don't take any cases on gun laws, despite several being, or on Second Amendment, despite several coming before the court every single year. And when you do, it's always this mitigated, half-assed approach where they won't even decide on a level of scrutiny appropriate for gun ownership. What do you think the future of gun law is in the Supreme Court? I mean, we do have the one New York, the New York case, the New York carry, right? The concealed carry case, was heard before them.
I mean, honestly, I don't expect anything to change. I expect it to continue to be, we won't review this case, or if we do decide to hear this case, the decision we make isn't going to change much of anything. It's going to be very vague and wishy-washy. I don't think we're going to see another case like Heller in our lifetimes in terms of the court being decisive in anything. And my personal belief is, every gun law is an infringement and tyrants fear an armed populace. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make any decision that is going to ease the current restrictions. Certainly, I don't think they're going to make any decision that's going to say, hey, ATF, we no longer automatically favor your agency opinions. That's
Right.
the continuing federal thing is, a federal agency made this decision. The court's going to just accept it.
Yeah, because that's how the Constitution's supposed to work. I learned that in Article 8 of the Constitution.
I mean, it's there in black and white. If a executive branch agency says something, the judiciary just has to smile and nod.
That's what the judiciary is good at these days. Yeah, no, I agree. On Heller, just for a minute, why did Scalia screw us? I mean, he made it like barely legal to own like that. He did the bare minimum to make it legal to own a firearm in your own home in Washington, D.C. I feel like with Heller, I don't feel like he properly enshrined the right to keep and bear arms outside of the home. I don't think he didn't set a level of scrutiny. He suggested either intermediate or strict. Like it's like, well, it could be this, it could be that. It's like, well, okay, you didn't select a standard and you didn't set a new one. So what did we do here? And then we had McDonald 2 years later, which was basically a mirror of Heller.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, equally useless. I know they both get a lot of praise, but under the reasoning in Heller, AR-15 should be treated like pistols. But under the ruling of Heller, only pistols are treated with this ability to not be regulated in that way. And it's like Scalia explains why an AR-15 should qualify the same way as a pistol does, and then he rules the opposite, or he doesn't extend the ruling that far, I should say.
Well, that kind of thinking goes back all the way to Miller, where the court flat out said, hey, the way this new NFA is written, if it's a military arm, it shouldn't be covered as a tax payable item. But we don't know any information that says a sawed-off shotgun is a military arm, so we're going to okay that, and also machine guns, because machine guns definitely aren't in use by the military.
Yeah.
There was no big slaughter in World War I with machine guns at all. We don't know anything about that.
I love, and also machine guns. Right. And this is, of course, US v. Miller is being decided, 1936, 39, something like that?
Yeah, I should have the date memorized, but yeah, it was basically brand spanking new, and it probably would have been much different had the person bringing the case not died, his attorney not failed to show up, all these little issues.
Right. Right. Make the government actually argue the case and fight it.
Yeah.
Well, it's I think we'll get to talking more about this stuff in a minute. Excuse me. But let me grab the chats that came in before the show before I forget, and then we'll roll into more of it. Andrew War Snowboard says, is Johnny Depp vaccinated, or is he hoping he has herd immunity? I am considering instituting a policy of banning people for puns in the chat. Like that is a policy I am considering instituting on the channel. I'm not pro banning, but I'm so anti pun that it's ridiculous. Cole Roberts says, why are there so many commies in U.S. law schools?
Well, where the change is.
Yeah. That it's a couple factors, right? Law schools are institutional. Commies love institutions, especially if they're state institutions. State schools are wonderful for them. It's like their haven. A state entity that is involved in the education and indoctrination of the next generation of their thing is like, that's the commie playbook. But just in general, lawyers tend to lean a little bit left. Not sure if that's the education aspect of it, but it certainly plays into, or it certainly is fueled by the law schools in many ways. But then they get out, and there's just so many. There's so many lawyers out there that they need to go somewhere, and some of them are going to end up educating. Lots of them are going to end up as adjunct professors. And since they're communists, they don't care about being poor, which is great. It's like, wait, you did all this work to go to law school. Why do you want to be an adjunct professor of anything? But that's, I don't know. That's my personal thoughts. But you do have to kind of inoculate yourself against them when you're going into school. Keep your own mind on it. Vacuus Amago says, if men are now women and women are just now birthing people, baby makers, isn't this just peak patriarchy again? Do you think progressives will ever realize they're actually regressive conservatives with extra steps? You know what? How dare you? Birthing people can be men. I think that's the rules now. I'm not quite clear on it. I think the ATF is writing gender rules. I think they're doing that now.
Well, they certainly prefer killing women and children.
Tall Skinny Geek says, hey chat, what's everyone's brain ache relief of choice for tonight's topics? Well, I have Gatorade that I've already drank like half of it because I'm just so thirsty tonight. But then I'm going to switch over to, I don't know, bourbon or scotch or something. Oh, I have a new bourbon. Maybe we'll try this. This Joseph Magnus straight bourbon whiskey. I'll try that tonight. But yeah, that's my weapon of choice. And then we have Jay Wolfenstein says, is it too late to suggest a second channel name? I propose Racket with Rackets. I kind of like Ricada Raw. I think that is a good one. We'll see. I like the idea of Barely Legal because I maybe want to catch a pedophile accidentally stumbling on my channel. And then I could, they could hear me saying that they should be strung up on the wall or whatever. I think that might just be worth it. But I also think if I make Barely Legal the channel name, it might be suppressed forever in the search algorithm. So, but it was a good joke, I thought. I really think it fits the theme of the show, though, that I plan on, or the videos that I plan on doing. Like, they're barely legal, right? Let's see. Ola Kyle says, please don't punish us, Nick. Squizgar says, do you think banning is a bit severe a punishment? I hate all of you. All of you. Eco Sophist says, is Medicare the guy who made Lost in the Echobergs with Mr. Bond? I saw Mr. Bond was arrested in Austria for his rap songs. I have no idea. I don't think I don't know anything about that, but maybe it is. AD says, did you see the Grand Rapids police shooting? I did. Did you see that?
I have not. No.
Okay. It was It's pretty brutal. I mean, maybe we'll watch it later. I guess who cares if this won't be advertiser friendly. But maybe we can watch it a little bit later. Do you talk about self-defense or police shooting cases or anything?
I do, and I have a license to practice in Michigan too.
Ooh, so you could go and potentially defend this this officer of the law.
Yeah, probably not. I'm not really a huge fan of taxi cabs.
Wait a minute. So you're licensed to practice in Michigan. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with my favorite Michigan case, favorite to hate, the case of Lucas Gerhard?
Yes, that poor bastard.
Yeah, yeah, and his case is going on forever. It's like, oh my god, but that's because it really shouldn't even be happening, and so there's a bunch of appeals going on with the motions to dismiss and stuff like that. But oh, what a fucking joke of a case. I hate it. I hate it. Okay. Okay, but let's get on to the business of the evening, and that is the proposed rule change for ATF. I want to make sure we get that before the night gets too young. ATF.
Well, it's definitely not proposed at this point.
Wait, no, it
takes
in.
effect in 4 months.
Right. Here we go. Is this I'm trying to find out where this one is. Oh, here we go. ATF regulations defining a firearm, stabilizing braces, and solvent traps.
Is
that it?
Stabilizing braces is the rule that's coming down the pipe to be final in about 2 months. This one is definition of frame and receiver and identification of firearms. Firearms final rule.
Okay, here I got it. I'm just going to try and I'm going to pull it up on the where's the actual text of this thing? Oh my god.
It's a 364 page PDF.
Yeah, here's the text right here. Only 364 pages, huh? That's nice.
Only about 70 of them actually matter. Almost everything before that is what came before, and here's the public comments we ignored.
Okay, so well, I've got it pulled up here from the Federal Register. So I'll pull it up on screen. If you have any suggestions on where to go in this, I'm happy to do that. So this is the background information that you were talking about. It is broken down by section. The application to split blah, 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 privately made firearms or ghost guns. Should we stay here?
The real meat comes around page 291 when it gets past all the comments that were made into basically a review of the changes. And then I have on my PDF on my screen, I've got page pulled up to 335, which is the new definition for multi-piece frame or receiver. Because that's honestly one of the most, how early into the stream are we in terms of demonetization? That's one of the most screwed up portions of the rule change in terms of what the heck does it mean. Although you've got on the screen right there the second most screwed up.
Okay, so give me a line that I can just throw in search real quick and go right to.
Multi-piece frame or receiver. In the case of multi-piece frame or receiver, the modular subpart that is the outermost housing.
Let's see. Where is modular subpart?
Yeah.
I think I have a different document than you somehow, because I'm not finding modular sub. How annoying. Let's see. Wait, do you have it up on your screen?
I do, but how do I mean, am I going to screen share and show all my info, or how does that?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that. Let me see if I can find a better thing of this.
For what it's worth, it's not actually the published in the Federal Register, but it's the full PDF. I pulled it off of the ATF page. That's the summary of final rule 2021R-05F. I'm gonna
final rule. What was it?
into the chat. That way you'll have it.
Oh yeah, if you post it in the private chat, I'll grab it.
There, that's the link, and then from there you can click on the PDF.
Oh, that'll be much better. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I mean, to get things out of the way in terms of, there is one nice little bit of silver lining into the storm cloud. Currently, if you're one of those idiots who likes turning guns to like Tiffany blue to sell because, oh look, it looks neat, you buy a gun as a gun shop, you Cerakote it, and then you sell it as a more expensive firearm because it's got this weird color on it. Technically, you need to have a manufacturer's license currently. The one silver lining this rule does that's pretty good is say, okay, you know what? That's not manufacturing. You don't need a manufacturing license. And they mostly did that because no one's been bothering to get it, but everyone's Cerakoting guns. That's the one little thing, is it makes it somewhat easier for our FFLs to do their jobs. Everything else is a feces sandwich.
Okay, so what page should we go to? What page should we be on to look
I've
at?
got page 335 pulled up because that is just a wonderfully horrible definition.
Okay, so here we are. So this is under identification of firearms and armor-piercing ammunition.
Yeah.
And then we go to 335. So the multi-piece frame or receiver, is that what you're talking about? Okay.
And the reason I have that pulled up is because according to the ATF, this whole rule is designed to simplify things and make these definitions easier to understand. And I could go into a whole rant about the 1968 Gun Control Act and the actual definition that this is all supposed to be based on. But this is the simple definition. And then you read that first line for multi-piece frame or receiver, and it's technical gobbledygook. It's just junk.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so in the case of a multi-piece frame or receiver, the modular subpart that is the outermost housing or structure designed to house, hold, or contain either the primary energized component of a handgun, breech blocking or sealing component of a projectile weapon other than a handgun, or internal sound reduction component of a firearm muffler or firearm silencer, as the case may be, shall be the subpart of the multi-piece frame or receiver identified in accordance with this section. If more than one, that was the first sentence. And I don't know what that means. Okay.
The good news is neither do I, and I'm supposed to be the expert.
The modular subpart that is the outermost housing or structure designed to house, hold, or contain the primary energized component of a handgun. The bullet? Is that the primary energized component of a handgun? Is it a bullet or is it the hammer?
It's the hammer and either striker or firing pin setup, as far as I can tell from what they mean by energized. Because what they're describing is the receiver housing, the fire control group, or the bolt housing the firing pin. And those diagrams you had pulled up earlier, those images show a bolt action rifle with the bolt as a separate possible serialized item from the actual firearm receiver, because it holds the energized component, which I guess is the firing pin.
That is okay. And so then the internal sound reduction, the breech blocking or sealing component of a projectile weapon other than a handgun. Okay, so that's breech blocking or sealing component.
That should be the bolt.
Yeah, because like on the AR, when the round is chambered, the breech is closed off, right?
By the bolt carrier and the bolt locking, rotating into place. That's what closes the breech.
Right. And so then finally, the internal sound reduction component of a firearm muffler or firearm silencer. So this also applies to suppressors.
That one's easy. Yeah, that's just suppressor baffles.
Sure. Okay. So then the next sentence is, if more than one subpart, well, here, let me blow this up. If more than one subpart is similarly designed to house, hold, or contain such primary component, e.g. left and right halves. So I guess if you have like a double barrel shotgun or something.
Actually, the reason they say left and right halves rather than upper or lower is because a lot of older machine guns, the registered machine gun is one of the side plates of the receiver housing. So what they're saying is, okay, you've got a left and right half, you've got a left side plate, a right side plate, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. I'm not an expert in fire armory. I just like them.
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying that up. Each of those subparts must be identified with the same serial number and associated licensee information, not duplicated on any other frame or receiver. Okay, so now if you have one of those old style machine guns that has the right and left side rather than an upper or lower, you have to serialize both sides of them identically. That's what they're saying.
Well, they're grandfathering existing designs, so you don't really have to worry about the old stuff. But if, for instance, someone made a new type of machine gun that had that same setup, they would have to do it identically. And
I thought
this
it
is
was
just
illegal to manufacture machine guns for non-military purposes after 1986. Am I
uh,
retarded?
it's not quite that. After 1986, it is illegal for private civilian transfer of machine guns manufactured after 1986. But
Okay.
there are still police purposes. There's overseas sales. So, like the Mod Deuce, the M2 50 cal Browning is technically a side plate type machine gun. So if someone were redesigning that and did the same setup with plates, I could totally see them saying, "Okay, this is a new machine gun. Now you have to have the serial number on either side because it's a new design."
But I
Uh,
can't buy it if they do
no,
that,
no,
right?
you would not be able to buy it. But in a more way that you would be able to do it, like if someone redesigned the AR or made a rifle that's
Sure.
the AR killer, their upper and lower would each be one half of these components they're describing, this split receiver, and they'd have
Okay.
to serialize each alike. But what gets really screwy is that this is just the intro to the part where they say that you cannot then replace that other serialized piece unless essentially it's broken and the manufacturer does the replacing. So my big issue, and the reason I think this is the most screwy part of this, is you've got this thing where if someone's going to make a rifle to replace the AR and it has a split receiver, you're not going to have end user ability to say, okay, I want to change out the caliber by getting a different upper. You're not
Right.
going to have the end user ability to say, oh, my upper split because of an overpressure issue. I'm just going to go replace it. This is now a manufacturer replacement issue, and it's going to kill innovation in the market the same way that the 1986 ban killed innovation in the machine gun market. Because when you can't make machine guns that civilians can buy, there's not economic incentive to be making all sorts of weird and cool things.
Right.
And
Yeah, because you effectively, no matter what, we learned this interestingly during the Cold War. I don't know if people know this, but the Cold War economic fight that we had with Russia was one where they basically said they would. No, wait, I'm getting this wrong. I think I'm mixed up on this. Ignore everything I just said. Ignore all of it. But no, the idea that you clamp off a huge section of the market, especially the market that has private venture dollars involved in it, right? Like if Remington were allowed to make and sell machine guns, someone might find a very profitable business model and invest in Remington. But the market for machine guns is going to be effectively closed down and limited to state entities entirely, which is a limited market with limited ability to change the market relationships of businesses and those government entities, in my opinion. The identified subparts of a complete assembled or unassembled multi-piece frame or receiver shall not be removed and replaced. Okay, yeah, so that's what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's not a firearm, but we already said that it basically, like the main parts of this thing are a firearm, right? The receiver. So you could swap out the barrel, you could swap out the stock, but and you could swap out a trigger component, a grip, something like that. But unless it's built in, are those built into the receivers or no? I mean, not the
Some
triggers,
designs,
not.
yes. Some designs, no. The What Would Stoner Do, the AR lower or rifle, complete rifle that Brownells is selling, that Gun Jesus, Forgotten Weapons, that guy did to help design. That lower receiver is a complete entity with the grip and the buttstock built into the receiver. So you can't really swap those out. But like on your standard AR, everything but the stripped lower, the stripped upper is completely modular.
Sure. Okay, so you said that this is the most wonky thing because
In my opinion.
requires because it requires or it limits the ability. It basically is like buying an iPhone, right? Well, you can't fix this. You got to take it to an Apple store. You have no right to the right to repair issue is big in electronics. And this effectively takes away the right to repair for the individual.
Yeah, and actually repair goes into what I consider the second wonkiest thing, which is the whole concept of these 80% receivers, or as they are now legally termed, privately made firearms.
Right.
And the requirement to serialize them. So the short form of that is, I mean, not getting into the 80% kits but just in terms of what your average gun shop has to deal with. If your average gun shop is going to buy your privately made firearm, they are now required to serialize it with a unique serial number, which doesn't match any other serial number in their inventory, which is itself kind of messed up, and also include their FFL, their Federal Firearm License number on the gun. They have to inscribe that on the gun. So they have 7 days to do that from the time they buy a gun. But if they offer gunsmithing services and you come in and say, hey, this homemade Glock broke, can you fix it? And they say, sure, it'll be ready in 2 days. If it stays overnight in the shop, they have to inscribe it and put it on their books. So you get your gun back with their number on it and their serial number on it, and you can't opt out of that. So basically, now they're saying if you have a privately made firearm and you need a professional to repair it, you have to let that professional put a serial number on it and essentially register it with the ATF. Or
you got to have it done outpatient.
Or do your own gunsmithing. Yeah, or do it the same day.
Yeah.
If someone can do it the same day, great. But, I've advised my clients, just don't take them in.
Right.
Because if you take them in and it stays overnight, then you also have to invest in the engraving services. You have to be able to quickly engrave these firearms, and you have to have a disclosure to the person you're doing the work for saying, hey, we're going to modify your firearm if it has to stay here overnight. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make a ton of sense either. So let's talk about because I think that the headline, right, is the 80% lower kits. Like what you're talking about is this very technical stuff that involves gun shops and the manufacture of of firearms, but kind of the popular meme aspect of self-producing firearms is you can just buy an 80% lower and with a CNC kit, and if you have skills beyond like me, you can effectively make a gun out of what's little more than a lump of metal.
Yeah.
Right.
Now the fun part is that really doesn't get changed by this rule. The way this rule is set up, it's basically saying if you sell these kits or offer for sale something that could be a kit, you have to sell it as a serialized firearm. The person has to do a 4473, which is the federal form you do when you buy from a gun shop, and it has to go through a gun shop. So if you're buying it as a full kit, it becomes problematic. But these manufacturers can continue to sell just the 80% receiver as long as they don't sell any of the tools or parts you need.
Oh, okay. So they can still sell the lump of metal.
Yeah.
But they can't sell the lump of metal and like a set of drill bits and like, I don't know.
And they can't sell the diagram plans because there's language in there about you can't have index marks and you can't have, pointing to this is how you complete it. So basically they can still sell the lump of metal and not have to worry about serialization. But even beyond it, the 80% stuff's new to the market. Before there were 80% stuff, when I wanted to go make a homemade gun, or when Average Joe wanted to make a homemade gun, you go to Ace Hardware. You buy 2 pipes, a nail, and an end cap, and you have yourself a shotgun.
Right.
So if they're going to enforce this rule, which says, hey, if it's a kit, if you're selling anything that could be possibly a kit, it has to be serialized, then Lowe's, Menards, Ace, they all need FFLs. Anytime you buy plumbing supplies or gas pipe supplies, you need to do a 4473, and every pipe has to be serialized. I want to wreck the ATF in terms of ruining their souls by making them have to enforce that. I proposed on my Facebook page, everyone needs to go to their hardware store, buy a pipe, threaded pipe, because according to that, that's all you need to be a receiver, because it's a shotgun receiver, and say, look, I got my 80% kit at Lowe's, and tag the ATF. Make the ATF have to deal with, well, people are buying these firearm kits and they're not serialized. Oh, these hardware stores need their FFLs. Let them have to deal with all that paperwork. Crush their souls.
Do you think that would crush their souls, or they'd be happy about it, though?
Honestly, I think the end result is they would require it, and we'd find out real fast which of our plumbers that we let into our homes are actually felons. They're the ones who won't be able to get supplies.
What if the ATF just started going to Lowe's and Ace Hardware or whatever and shooting everyone's dog?
Well, most of the dogs you find at those hardware stores are the guide dogs, so I think they'd make for some hilarious news headlines. And then people might actually be serious about defunding the ATF. I'm for
Man,
that.
they need to get serious about it, because it's, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, what you're telling me is that basically, while this is designating an 80% lower kit as a full firearm, just the 80% lower is not. So if you're buying this thing, so long as it doesn't have like an etched guide on it or it doesn't come with like some cutout guide that you glue on there, whatever,
Yeah.
you can go ahead and still get this. And if you know what you're doing, because you, I don't know, have the internet, I guess, you could still make the same, you could still make this thing into an AR of your choice.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, if I were Polymer 80 with their Glock kits, and I'm not giving them legal advice because I don't know, I'm not a lawyer in their state, but seriously, what you do is you say, okay, we're just going to sell the frame, the unfinished frame, no index marks on it, whatever, and we're going to sell all the assets for the kits to a third-party company in another state, and we will just sell it that way. And of course, customers will know that, oh, they need to get the jig kit. Well, they get it from this company. Oh, they need to get the parts they get from this third company. Still comes to their door, still comes unserialized, same difference. But within the meaning of this rule, no one is selling that parts kit that makes it a complete firearm.
Sure.
It's 3 separate entities.
See, with the headlines and me not being fully versed on this, I thought that it meant that you would have to serialize any homemade firearm, that basically a lump of metal had just become a firearm receiver under the definition in all categories, because that's what the headlines kind of make it out to be.
Yeah, and they do get serialized if they're sold to a gun shop. They have to get serialized. And, the fun part there is the ATF says that the reason we want these FFL numbers on them is for easier gun tracing. And now I'm going to preface this with, this isn't legal advice, and this is in Minecraft. If I were a clever criminal and I'm turning out actual ghost guns, not just scrubbing the serial numbers off of guns and having them be called ghost guns, if I'm actually turning out 80% kits to sell in my local market, well, I've been selling them without serial numbers because why need them? But now I find out, oh, all of these guns are going to wind up marked somehow with serial numbers eventually. So I think about the gun shop that didn't sell me a pistol 5 years ago because I failed my 4473 background check. And I go to the ATF's website and I look up their FFL number. And then I engrave all my guns with that FFL number, because screw that guy. When the ATF finds these guns, they're going to come to his door and say, hey, you sold these guns, and they wound up at a crime scene. And he's going to say, I never saw them. They're not on my books. And then the ATF is going to say, oh, they're not on your books? Great. We're pulling your license and you might be going to prison.
Now, seems abusable.
But that would immediately kill the concept. You just put down the FFL number of someone you don't like.
Right. Yeah. Like, and if you're a competing gun manufacturer, you could eliminate competition in that way. I mean, super illegal.
Yeah, the gun manufacturers don't actually have to worry about any of this.
I mean,
markings, but
competing FFL. Sorry, I didn't mean a manufacturer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a competing FFL that's selling guns on the side and making money selling to criminals, I mean, you're violating the law anyway. But yeah, if you want to screw over the competition on your legal end, yeah, you've got the engraving equipment probably.
Do a lot of people make a gun and then take it to their gun shop and the gun shop buy it from them? Is that a common thing?
It's not super common. My clients I've advised over the years specifically don't buy these guns because for just products liability issues.
That's what I would think.
You don't know what the quality going into these are. But it's
like what if Michael J. Fox made your gun?
Right. Well, part of the thing is it's not just these kits, and it's not just 3D printed kits. You can actually turn out some pretty fine product. If you have CNC machinery, you can make a pretty good gun, or you can buy from Brownells an unfinished frame or even a finished frame and build up the gun yourself. And it's hard for the shop to tell that that's a home build.
Right.
But other than the fact it's not engraved. Now, that actually, there's one other interesting thing in there too, is their concept of what a new design is. Because according to the ATF, if it's a new design, it needs that weird multi-component receiver thing we talked about with the dual serial numbers. But one of the things they put in there is that if you modify a receiver, it might become a new design. So in this rule, they have all these pictures of, oh, these are grandfather things you don't have to worry about, pump guns, AR-15 family, that kind of thing, by picture, by name, by description. But let's say you have a 1965 Sears product shotgun that never got a serial number. because it wasn't mandatory in 1965.
Right.
And you're a Bubba. So you went in and you modified the receiver to fit a different caliber barrel. Well, have you technically created a new design? If you bring it into a gun shop, does that mean they have to serialize it? Are they going to be aware that they need to serialize it because they can see it's a new design? Or is it just going to be a trap for the ATF to come and pull their license and say, hey, you didn't serialize this? Because that's what they do, for instance, with blank firing pistols today. Some blank firing pistols need to be in your books and have to get a 4473 because they're pistols. Some don't. And the ATF will not tell you which is which until you have the physical thing in your hand and you're trying to figure it out. So gun shops should not buy used blank firing pistols because you don't know what to do with them. And that's where we're at with all this.
Blank firing pistols aren't just pistols loaded with blanks?
Some can be converted to fire actual ammunition. Some can't. Now, when they're sold initially...
I thought it was just a pistol and it was all the ammo that made the difference.
Some designs, yes, but most of them, no.
So why?
Because they're starter guns. They're for people to, use for races and stuff at high schools, for the most part.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have seen those, the starter guns where, yeah.
But some of those the ATF says are convertible to actual firearms. So if you're a gun shop and you buy one, you have to put it in your books as a gun and you have to sell it on a 4473. But some of them aren't. And if you put the wrong one on your book, the ATF will ding you when they do their audit. And if you don't put it on your book when you need to, they'll ding you when they do their audit. It's a trap. That's all it is.
It sounds like Alec Baldwin should have had one of those that was not convertible.
Ideally, yes, and they make those. But when you go cheap on production because your producer is cheap on the money. Oh, who was the production producer on that movie? I can't remember.
Alec Baldwin.
That's right. Alec Baldwin, the actor, should say something to Alec Baldwin, the producer, about being a tightwad.
Oh my God. That's see, here I am. I'm getting educated because I thought for the life of me that it was literally just blanks. And I wondered why Hollywood didn't have guns that were just simply incapable of firing a projectile. Because it seems like you could do that.
Oh, they do. And lots of older production movies, you see them all the time. One of the reasons they're not as favored these days is high definition. It's more obvious that it's a fake gun on the screen. So they use the real guns and they just use blanks.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, let me hit a couple more of these chats. Mm-hmm. Stardust Crusader says, if you start banning people for puns, does that make you the Punisher? I regret all of my life choices.
Just remember, Stardust Crusader, you can't spell manslaughter without a bit of laughter.
It's true. But see, that's not a pun. That's just fact.
I'm just saying something in Minecraft to Stardust Crusader about puns in general.
True Anana Shabbat, a bad pressure, bad calf care says, do a poll with Ricada Raw. Also been considering law. How do you keep your morals and sanity, knowing you will hand clients that you are I think you mean represent, handle, maybe clients that you are morally against. How do people defend maps when they should be on a wall?
I don't take those cases.
Yeah, that's the main thing. You don't have to. Most of the time, there's no one that can force you to take a case. Now, if you're a public defender, you're going to take a lot of cases. But here's how you deal with it in general. The government has to do their job. And if they do their job, bad person, if they're bad, goes to jail. Assuming you do your job, government does their job, and the system works itself out. Even if you provide a vigorous defense, but bad person goes to jail because the government has sufficient evidence to prove their crimes beyond a reasonable doubt, as they're supposed to. And you make sure their rights are protected, you make sure their interests are represented, and you make sure the government actually has that required information. But most of the time, you never actually, I shouldn't say most of the time, some of the time you never actually know if your client did it or not, because it's not really your concern if they did. I mean, you're not there to determine their guilt. You're there to protect their innocence, their presumption of innocence, and the government has to overcome it. So, but yeah, don't take a case that you don't like. I don't condemn DWI people or whatever, but I don't take DWI cases because I would not know how I could deal with it if I defended a DWI person and then they ran into my family driving around town. That would be trouble for me. So I would refer those on to other people. That's just personal for me. Whereas like drug cases and theft stuff, like doesn't bother me to defend that at all. Yeah, domestic violence, like they're not beating me. I don't care. That was a joke, honestly. But I mean, I'd still take domestic violence cases are usually a lot more complicated than they're made out to be. But Vincent Teague says only 364 pages. Try to bid a red construction job. The specs on those jobs are done times 3,000 pages. Sometimes 3,000 pages. Also, all the young people out there, trades are better than colleges. My company is paying $15 an hour for people with GEDs. Yeah, well, so is Aldi. Take that. But
I mean, to be fair, before I went to law school, I got paid to watch paint dry in a paint lab, and I think I'd be happier having done that for the past 20 years.
You literally got paid to watch paint dry?
It was one of the tests we had to run, is how long does it take for this paint to dry? And I got paid to watch it.
How long does it take?
It would depend on the paint and what's in the actual formulation. It was just one of the things we did, but that was basically a trade job. I only had my high school diploma for that.
There you go.
I got to drive home buzzed every day because of the solvents.
I'm watching, man, but I'm not really watching, if you know. Magoo says rarely legal. Yeah, that's one that is high up on the list too. I like that one. Good evening, Rackets and Benjamin. Great first half of the trial today. My husband and I enjoyed Isaac's testimony very much, and Tug, in your commentary was classic. Thank you. Yeah, it was. The first half of today was really good. That last bit with the are you watching the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing at all?
I've had a lot to do this week in terms of client stuff, but I tuned in briefly today just to hear someone dropping a C word a lot. That was entertaining.
Yeah. See, yeah, that was great. But then when we got past that, they had someone who couldn't make it into Virginia for a testimony. So they played a recorded video deposition of the property manager of the building where Johnny Depp used to live. And if that doesn't sound boring, I don't know who you are.
No, I've done depositions in real time. That's horrifying.
Yeah. And it's not like they were playing the deposition of someone who's like interesting celebrity who's on set somewhere and couldn't make it in. This is the property manager of a building talking about security, like authenticating security footage, one video at a time.
Once again, something that could have been resolved by an affidavit.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dumb thing is they stipulated to all of like all of the admitted videos were stipulated between the parties ahead of time. So they're literally just playing this video for like 2 hours. And so why the hell are we doing this? Why? Like the jury does not need to hear this guy say, yes, this is authentic video from the surveillance camera at the building. Yes, this is authentic video from the surveillance camera at the building in hallway B. Like they didn't need that. And that's what they did. That was just 2 hours of trial time, just lit on fire. Oh God, it was fucking terrible.
Well, they had work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping they have a couple others of those. Maybe hopefully will resolve them down. The Dalek says, I'm pretty sure the ATF has an FFL. You might have to dig for it, though. So your suggestion, your Minecraft suggestion, put the ATF's manufacturer number on all of the illegal ghost guns you're selling all over the place.
At the very least, find ATF agents with their own kitchen table FFLs. They're out there.
That'd be great. Don't do that. Please do not do that.
Purely in Minecraft.
This is
go to
all jokes.
Over this.
These are all funny hypotheticals that criminals will do, and none of us or you will, because that would be very, very bad felony behavior. Do not do it.
You will meet Bubba, and you will not enjoy living with him for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it will not be a pleasant experience at all. So okay, so we've kind of covered this thing. It's less ridiculous than I thought. Does it have any impact on suppressors?
The
Other
suppressor
than
thing is just engraving and marking, and
didn't you already have to engrave and mark suppressors?
yeah, it just changes some of the ways in which they get done at the manufacturer level. The suppressors are their own special hell if you're making them, but if
Yeah.
you're buying them, they're very straightforward in terms of you do your Form 4, you purchase it, you're done.
Yeah, they're still treated? They're still treated like a machine gun, right? So you have to
Oh
pay
yeah,
your
they're Title
$200
II
stamp.
firearms on the NFI on NIFTR, the National Fire, whatever. The firearms index, the registry.
Are there a lot of suppressor related murders to your knowledge? Lots
So
of that going around.
the fun thing about suppressor machine gun murders is they're used by criminals, people who have stolen guns, whatever. But in terms of legally possessed, there's literally only a handful of known legally possessed machine guns used in crimes since the registry started in 1934. And of those, and the reason I think it's fun as opposed to horrifying is one was a cop who, if I believe correctly, killed an informer who was about to rat on him being a corrupt cop. And the other was a doctor who went a little nuts. And they used legally possessed machine guns that were on the registry. But in terms of other than that, sometimes they pop up. Most of the time when someone gets in trouble with a registry item, it's because they had it in their possession while doing something else, not actually using it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, you mentioned two, and I'm pretty sure since 1934 there have been literally two.
It's 3 or 4 with the machine guns.
Oh, it's 3 or 4
over
now?
almost 100 years. And 2 of them were in Ohio, a cop and a doctor. So, take that out, and it's 2 in the course of 100 years, and Ohio's weird anyway.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane. They express, well, maybe, I mean, of course they would say then the registry is then effective, right? Like that's why.
Not necessarily, their way of saying is all guns should be registered, but not because it's going to cut down on crime. And, it's like their stat that there were thousands of these ghost guns used in crimes. And then when you get into the weeds about what that stat means, it's maybe a few hundred actual home manufactured guns. The rest were guns where the criminal scrubbed out the serial number, which is against the law. Surprise. Yeah. Criminals violate the law.
But in general, this just changes. This changes the kits that we're talking about. It changes machine guns themselves, or modifying receivers in general. So this has to do with, I guess, gunsmithing in some way.
Yeah, there is some changes to gunsmithing in terms of being a bit more lax on what is and isn't gunsmithing that you would need a license for.
Right.
But the real big changes here are more burdens paperwork-wise on your average gun shop, more burdens paperwork-wise on your average firearm manufacturer, and a lot more burdens if someone decides they want to create a genuinely new design. If someone's
that's the goal, right? Like burden the shops, increase the cost of everything.
The burden is to have the M16 basically be America's rifle and the AR-15 be the civilian version of it for the next 100 years, because no one wants to design anything newer. Because I was talking with one of my clients about this. Let's say someone designs a genuinely new pistol. All these pistols are split design, almost all of them, with the slide and then the frame. So someone designs something that's genuinely new. Now they have to serialize both alike, and you can't repair one and just replace it. You actually have to send it to the manufacturer and have them do a repair. And let's say someone actually says, well, I'm still interested in this design despite all the burden. I'm going to buy 2. Well, do you record just those 2 serial numbers on the form, or do you have to record each of the parts as a separate item? And the reason that's a problem is once you've recorded 4, now you're filling out the multiple pistol purchase form to the ATF, which is supposed to be for 3 or more. Because technically,
so if you have 2,
items.
Right, but you have two guns but 4 items,
and you're just adding to the paperwork.
Right.
And all it does is add to the burden. And the ATF even said, we think this will be like a one-time burden of like an hour additional paperwork for gun shops. Yeah, right.
Well, an hour of additional paperwork per gun?
Well, their thought is, we'll just take them an hour to get the whole new setup down and all the training on how to do it. Yeah. because engraving
Yeah.
these things, if they're still buying them, is that's going to be real fast. When you have to engrave everything properly and legibly, make sure all the numbers are correct. You have to index all the numbers in your shop to make sure you don't accidentally repeat a serial number. It's designed to throttle the industry. On the other hand, 3D printer go burr and go to Lowe's and buy a shotgun.
So this doesn't have any impact on 3D printed guns at this point?
Only if they're sold to gun shops.
Right. Which if you're a gun shop and you're buying 3D printed guns, that's
Weird.
even crazier.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine, like, or buying for the purpose of resale. That seems insane. You wouldn't know, like, the quality of the plastic that they used. You don't know if their printer had a design error or some sort of malfunction.
Right. But again, this also includes, like, if someone says, well, I need you to fix this gun, bring it into the gunsmith for more than a day, still gets that serial number.
Right. That's insane.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who come up and say, well, we should know who has guns? Like, I'm okay with that. I'm good with that.
When they say that stuff to me face to face, usually you're an idiot and walk away. When it's online, I usually bring out the Jews in the attic test, which is, would this make it harder to hide a Jew? Should that happen in this country? And if the answer is yes, it's tyranny. Does it make it harder to fight a tyrant to have a national gun registry? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
because they just go to those people's house first.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm on at least 4 or 5 lists. They're coming after me first. Oh, well, whatever. I'm slow and fat anyway. I'm not surviving the first 5 days. Just as a heads up to anyone, if you find my body, I'm that loot drop in the first level of Doom. When you start with a knife and then you find the guy with the armor and the shotgun, find my body. It'll be
there
good.
You go.
But other than that, we effectively have a registry anyway, because ATF's been playing games with keeping copies of 4473s they're not supposed to. And one of the things this rule does is say, well, after 20 years, you can't destroy stuff. Now you have to keep your records forever, because we were totally using records from over 20 years ago to try and trace guns, and we couldn't. Even though the ATF has said if a gun's been in circulation for more than a year, they can't trace it effectively anyway. Yeah, they were totally using records from 20 years ago.
Well, I was.
Yeah.
I was. ATF was contracting with me, and I was using those records, but
yeah.
No, that's of course ridiculous. It's like you said, it's just increase the burden and increase the cost and increase the hassle and make one more gun reseller or retailer retire, right? Like get close one more gun shop.
Oh, I've had that. I've lost clients over the past few years just saying, screw it. I'm old. This was a second job for me, or I'm close to retirement anyway. I don't want to deal with the hassle anymore. I'm not renewing my license.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. We had a guy on the show who had the ATF gun trace a murder gun to him, because he had given it. He had given the gun to.
I watched that trial. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That guy was fun.
Right. Smitty's great, but that's how it works. Lucky for him, he had the documentation, to support where this gun went.
Not to give him legal advice, but his description of how that gun transferred, I'm surprised the feds don't have him in custody.
Look, we're not going to talk about it.
He did what he did. Don't do what he did, folks. Don't do what he did if you're giving guns to people, but he did what he did.
Right. Otto Rommel says, Benjamin, what do you think about the argument that an AR isn't a rifle as defined by the ATF because the trigger and the bolt are separate pieces?
This is the rule that fixes that. You asking that question and a few courts deciding that question are why they decide that has to be what this is in this rule.
So there was an argument that the AR-15 was not a rifle.
Right. So in the 1968 Gun Control Act, the definition of what is a firearm frame or receiver, or what is a firearm, left out so-called split receivers, split frames. And the ATF has argued basically since 1968 that, Congress did that because those were such weird and unusual designs in 1968. Now, just to lay some history on you, over 100 years ago, the most popular handgun for sale in the world was a split frame. In 1911, the U.S. Army adopted a split frame pistol as their combat handgun.
Right.
The AR-15 existed before 1968. The M16 was adopted by the U.S. military before 1968. The FNFAL beat out the AR-10 to be the most popular 308-762 NATO rifle in the world before 1968. There are any number of common split frames, and in fact, those picture examples you scrolled through earlier, those are all these grandfathered designs. Most of them existed before 1968 as split frames or split receiver designs. Congress was just a bunch of idiots in 1968 that, as today, didn't know jack about guns. So they wrote what they wrote, and the ATF did what they did with that when the ATF came around, and, well, the IRS before them, but, well, Treasury before them. But, I mean, basically what it boils down to is, yes, technically as defined in the law, an AR-15 wouldn't be a firearm. But the ATF has interpreted it as a firearm based on the lower receiver, and now this rule changes so that moving forward, both receivers together are considered one and serialized alike. And then you've got grandfather designs like the AR-15 family. And it's all basically because no one in Washington knows jack shit about guns. Sorry. I figured we were just slightly past an hour.
No, you can say whatever you want.
Okay.
You can.
I don't want to demonetize you because I have language issues.
Oh my God, let it go. Let it
Okay.
go. Like Elsa in Frozen, right? Let it go. Let it go. Don't fucking suppress yourself. I think that's the words.
Okay, well, you can substitute about half the words I said in the past hour for the word fuckery in that case.
There you go. Oh man, sorry. We should have I should have covered that beforehand. No, the only thing you really can't say before 2 hours are like serious racial slurs.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't think you're going to drop, but you know, if you, that's up to you.
You know, that question you ask people, I love everyone. I love black people. I have no bias against anyone because honestly, genuinely, I hate everyone equally.
Wait a minute.
Do you love black people?
In theory, yes, but I hate everyone equally. So I hate everyone.
Do you love black people?
I love black people.
Thank you. There you go.
I think I said that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Doug Murray says, good evening, Rackets. Long haul trucking tonight to St. Louis. The ATF sucks. That being said, I had a country band in El Paso years ago, and our drummer was an ATF agent, and our bass player was a former Branch Davidian. Well, there you go. Makes for some interesting,
whatever you say about the ATF, at least they didn't separate parents from their children.
Oh, come on now. So my only interaction with the ATF was when I worked at Wells Fargo. This is it. And the field director for the St. Paul ATF would come down into our office because the downtown St. Paul Wells Fargo is in a building. And then up above that, a couple floors, was the ATF field office for St. Paul, Minneapolis. And so the field director would come down, and he came to my desk one day, and then he would do it all the time because I could actually get him what he needed. But what he would need was to cash a check from a different bank. The ATF's actual bank account was not with Wells Fargo. They just came down to us because we were close. And so he would cash a banker's check from a different bank for $5,000 to $8,000 to do sting purchases of various items that they would then, make arrests following that. And so he was super nice. He would come down. He had their cool bomb dog with him, and the dog would hang out by my desk and stuff while we had to round up and scrounge up the money, because banks have shockingly little cash on them. At any given time, outside of rare circumstances where people have ordered large amounts of cash, but they really don't have that much. So to give someone, $8,000 in smallish bills, we could do it. It just took a little bit of extra work. And so that was it though. That's my only experience with ATF. He was a nice guy though.
I mean, on a personal level, there are plenty of agents who are personable, and I get along with a few in the area. But in general, at the end of the day, they're still more than willing to, for instance, we think possibly this fellow might have had access to a firearm, so we're going to bring in the armored car because it hasn't seen use in a while. Why? Well, because it hasn't seen use in a while. No knocking on the doors. We'll just bring the armored car and knock the door down. That's what we do. So, you know,
I love the chat. The chat's now like, Nick's a Fed. Well, I guess I worked at the bank though.
I mean, honestly, not saying you're not a Fed, but I think if you were a Fed, one of my friends would have actually already told me. That's the fun of writing a letter that got spread around wide in the ATF.
Yeah, that letter was good. That letter was good.
Well, I can't take full credit. So the idea came from someone else entirely on the internet who made the image that I used and who posted, maybe I should send this to the ATF. And he actually commented on the Reddit thread when we first posted it publicly. And then one of my clients, who's a science fiction author, said, no, we should really do this. And I'm going to, pay you to do it. So, okay. I'm always happy to send a dick joke to the ATF.
Yeah, of course. Jesus criminy. Yeah, now they're saying I'm a Fed and a Jewish banker. So your test earlier, if you had to hide a Jew in your attic. I'm just saying if things go down. You're
not a Jewish banker because we play Jewish geography and we know who everyone is. So yeah, you're not on my geography list. You're not a Jewish banker.
What? I don't know. Have you seen this?
Doesn't matter. If you were a Jewish banker, I'd have you down as a friend of a friend's cousin from who went to Israel together. No, I'd know you. That's how Jewish geography works.
I hate dogs though. I don't hate dogs. I just shoot them along with my ATF friends. Can we seriously drop that? That's so rude of you to say that about me. AD says if ATF rules go to SCOTUS, does Chevron deference trump the Second Amendment? Do you want the cynical answer? Chevron deference has trumped every amendment just about. Chevron is a mistake. It's a big mistake by the Supreme Court. So Chevron deference for the chat is what we talked about earlier. It's that the Supreme Court defers to the wisdom of the federal agency when the federal agency promulgates a rule that basically defines something. So if the agency defines something, then the Supreme Court defers to that definition, and you can overcome that deference, but it's really hard to do so. It's an extremely high burden. So they just Chevron deference has trumped all of pretty much any amendment it's encountered at least once. It's a gross tool that makes it's what makes the administrative state the fifth branch of government, the fourth being the people, I guess they call it, but and probably the largest and most effective branch of government is the administrative state, in my opinion. I don't know if you have anything to disagree with there.
No, I mean, that's the correct, albeit unfortunately cynical answer is, the Constitution is effectively dead letter in the sense that the Supreme Court doesn't really enforce it anymore.
Rumble username suck says, under 478.12 definition of a frame or receiver, it looks like they're still only regulating a single component as the frame receiver for pistols and everything else respectively.
If it's a grandfathered design, the way that wonderful multi-piece frame or receiver reads is that if they decide you've created a new design, they are only really regulating the one part, but everything has to be serialized alike.
Sure. So it's except as otherwise provided in the section.
Right.
Term frame or receiver means the following. Part of the handgun or variants thereof that provide the housing instruction for the primary energized component designed to hold back the hammer, striker, bolt, or similar component prior to initiation of the firing sequence, i.e. sear or equivalent, even if pins or other attachments are required to connect such component to the housing structure. And then receiver means this thing, and then there's variant. And then it has all those things. But you're saying these are grandfathered in.
Yeah, these are the grandfathered concepts and designs. And the thing I love about having these images and these detailed descriptions is this was supposed to be the simplification rule that made everything easier to understand, which is why they need detailed pictures and descriptions for all these different types of firearms, because things are simpler now, just the way the government always simplifies things. And I had fun pointing out to one of my clients the other day that what's not in here is the FN SCAR series. And I don't know if that's because the ATF thinks it's an AR type weapon, which it's not, or if they're saying that the next time there's a new iteration of the SCAR, it's going to be considered a new design, just to throw it at all those gun boys or who like buying the expensive rifles that don't do anything more than the AR does already. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to just see that this is their version of simple, that they have to specify, oh, we mean the AK is a grandfather design. Yeah, because 1947, the Gun Control Act was 1968. You had 21 years to figure out that the AK didn't fit your definition of frame or receiver.
Right. So they have AK variants. They have Steyr AUG variants. They have the Thompson machine guns and semi-automatic weapons.
Yeah, 1921 for that.
Yeah. And then they have a couple others, and then HK machine guns and semi-automatic weapons. The Keltec Sub 2000.
Yeah, that's that folding pistol caliber. Keltec has a mixed reputation for quality and good gear, but the Sub 2000 is a pretty inexpensive way to have a pistol caliber carbine, and they fold up neatly. I mean, I prefer just, as a good Jew would, just to snip the barrel off and register an SBR, but such as it is.
There you go. So yeah, that's their handy dandy, whatchamacallit. Here, you know what I can do? I'm going to put this thing in the chat. If anybody wants to go download it, and cost the ATF money for a bunch of bandwidth being used on their server. But you can go do that, but and look at them for yourself. But I kind of want to move on from this bill, because this bill, I think it's been misrepresented by the media. I'm glad I didn't talk about it, because I'm not an expert on this stuff, obviously, and that's why I'm glad to have you on. But my interpretation of it just from the headlines was much different than what you're saying. Like, I thought this was killing the 80% lower market entirely.
Yeah, well, the media portrays it as the don't say 80% lower bill.
Right. Yeah, very, very true. Well, and then my brain was just thinking, well, okay, so are they going to make a 60% lower then? Like, because that seems like and that's where my questioning was going to go, was if they've killed 80% lowers, I mean, did they kill, different iterations that would be less, like a 60% or 50%? Because eventually you just have literally a chunk of metal.
Right.
And
well, 80% in and of itself doesn't mean anything. It's just a definition meant to say it's not a complete firearm. But yeah, as far as what the bill would actually cover, someone on Reddit posted a block of cheese, called it a 0% lower. And they're not wrong, because the ATF would say that within 8 hours, you could readily carve that with hand tools into a lower receiver. But, it would only be prohibited if you sold the block of cheese with a jig for how to complete it and the tools to do so. As long as it's just a block of cheese, it's not regulated by this. As long as it's a receiver that doesn't have index marks in it, it's not regulated. As long as you're not selling it with a jig or the parts to finish the tooling to finish making it, you don't have to serialize it to sell it, but you cannot also be selling the jig. That's one thing they put in there, is that if your website sells the kits to complete and the receiver, they're going to treat it as though you're selling the kit.
I wonder if I owned Ricada Industries, for example, and then I had a sub company that was Ricada Firearms, Ricada Receivers, and I sold 80% lowers just by themselves. And then I had a separate entity, but under the same umbrella corporation, that was like Ricada CAD or Ricada Mill Kit or something, that had all the rest of the parts. Does the law cover that? Would you have to have a completely separate entity with different management structures, or is it
my advice would be that you should have different management structures, because specifically as to whether or not it's a kit is up to the discretion of the ATF director.
Oh, okay.
So you want to avoid that. And the best way to avoid it is say, I have nothing to do with that business selling the parts. Sure. I sell receivers. It doesn't matter that my neighbor, that's a completely different business entity owned by completely different people, sells the jig kit. You can't get them off the same website. You can't get them from the same address or the same store.
Okay. That makes sense. That would be the smart move. Are you following this AutoSeer?
Yeah. You're talking about the AutoSeer card?
Yeah. What are you thinking about that?
So I think it's stupid. All gun laws are infringements, and screw the
Right.
ATF. But as far as it goes, I can kind of see the ATF's position in the sense that they treat something that's been indexed for completion as being the complete item, and it's expressly laid out in this rule. I mean, it's expressed in the rule now. If it's been indexed, it is definitely considered the complete firearm. And the problem with even the laser marked one is that it basically said cut here.
Right.
And it was made of a material that you could turn into the auto sear, the lightning link. And I get the humor of it, and I get the poking the ATF in the eye bit, but it's a stupid reason to go to prison.
What do you think about the guy who just did the advertising for it?
That's ATF overreach.
Okay.
They're saying, okay, you're part of a conspiracy. No, first of all, what conspiracy? He's not saying buy these guns, and he's got no way of knowing that the cards are in fact indexed properly. One of the fun things you get with AR receivers is that you can mark that forbidden third hole on the side of a receiver legally, as long as it's not in the right place. But 2 millimeters off center is in the wrong place and technically legal. If you mark that hole in the right place, it becomes a machine gun receiver and is illegal. So if you're selling laser marked cards you haven't seen, how do you know they're properly spec'd?
Right.
You don't know that everything's 100% correct.
Yeah, I just generally have problems with it.
Yeah.
But
and again, the whole thing is just screams, ATF overreach. The ATF shouldn't be regulating firearms to this extent. Certainly, this is still all based in their own agency determinations and these rules that have nothing to do with the foundational statutes.
Right.
The rules are supposed to simply be implementation of the statutes. And instead, these are, the statute says the sky is blue, but we're going to regulate the sky is red.
Yeah, and that's what people often they don't understand. And as lawyers, I think a lot of times we want to stray away from it because it's so horrible. But there's there's U.S. code, right? If we're talking federal law, there's U.S. code, which we'll say hypothetically is this thick, and then there's the CFR,
which is the stack next to me that goes to the ceiling.
Federal Register, right? It's dozens of times bigger than the US code. And it's what the Federal Register is it is the explanation of the letter of the law that is in the US code. And it runs, it's antithetical to the idea of an accessible legal system for the layperson, because laws are meant to be accessible to anybody. The general intelligence of the populace should be able to discern the laws that are on the books, because they should be able to know what they're expected to do and not do. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea based on how many laws we have in general, but the idea is that if you look, you should be able to suss it out with some level of competence.
Are you saying the general populace can't read that is the outermost housing or structure designed to household or contain either the primary energized component of a handgun, breech blocking, or sealing component? I mean,
I'm saying the general populace doesn't have time for 364 pages. Like,
right.
Who does, right? You're like, oh man, you know what? I want to do a hobby project. I'm going to buy one of those lower receiver things, and I'm going to make myself a gun, because that's pretty cool. I saw it on YouTube. Some guy was doing it, and I think I could do it, and I like guns. Once I get off my 40-hour-a-week shift and I spend some time with my kids, I'm going to take up some time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go ahead and read up on this 364-page PDF. And you're able to cut through and say, okay, well, these are the operative sections, because you have training to cut through and say, well, this is the stuff that matters.
I read the draft rule end to end when it came out last year, repeatedly.
Right. And normal humans can't, they don't have time, patience, or training to do that. They'd be lost a page in, and they're like, what the hell is this? I don't know what this is. And so the way this works is it just pisses me off, because our legal system and our structure of our country is supposed to be intelligible to the layperson. And lawyers are supposed to be good at representing people and putting things together, maybe that, or crafting novel theories or knowing case law and stuff like that. But the layperson is supposed to be able to pick up a statute and read it and go, okay, I can't catch more than 4 fish this August or whatever. Like, that should be it. Which I think that's stupid too. But besides the point.
Plus,
Anyway.
that simplifies what it actually says, because what it will really say is you can't catch more than 4 fish this August unless they're this size or this color or this shape, but not this species, and only if you have this particular license, but not on Thursdays. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and you can't use lures that drop below 12 feet of depth.
Yeah.
Also, unless you're north of the 42nd parallel,
And they have to be made of approved plastics.
Like here in Minnesota, we have what I call the Mason-Dixon hunting line, and there's a line that runs basically straight across the state, east to west, and north of it, for deer hunting, north of it you have to use a rifle. You cannot use a shotgun, and south of it you have to use a shotgun and cannot use a rifle.
That's some special fuckery.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like, why? What this? Huh? What the hell kind of idea is this? Why would that be? But that's the idea. And you can't use a crossbow unless you're crippled.
Yeah. Well, here, unfortunately, I'm in city limits. I can't discharge firearms, but thankfully I know people in the county, and as long as I'm on their land, I can hunt with whatever the fuck I want to.
Nice.
Well, short of a nuke, but
Yeah, I can just go in my backyard and shoot whatever I want, which is pretty cool.
That's nice.
That's because I live just outside of city limits. Oh, it's great.
Well, I mean, in theory, in Minecraft, I do have a noisy cricket set up that I could if I wanted to, but technically that would be. Oh,
it's a noisy cricket.
I have a 22 conversion slide on one of my Glocks with a 22 suppressor about ye big.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can go out and plink away quietly.
Yeah, except for the neighbors would almost certainly notice the dead wildlife in my yard. I need to get a good 6-7 foot wood fence as opposed to the chain link.
Yeah, you gotta have a if you're in city limits, you gotta have an opaque fence, in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, AK Clay says, where would HK or AK receiver flats fit in all of this?
They're included in the grandfathering.
Yeah, I think he sent that before we were scrolling down. I showed the AK receiver was on that grandfather, the diagrams that are in there. Yeah. Otto Rommel says, if I already have a bunch of AR-15 and AR-10 lowers,
don't worry about it.
Will I only be able to buy serialized uppers now?
No. AR-15 design is one of the grandfather designs. So the concept of identically serialized would be if someone designed an AR killer, like some variant that was still a bifurcated receiver, but was better than the AR and had all these different components, that would be serialized alike. And per the rule language, you would basically not be able to repair it yourself.
Do you follow Brandon Herrera?
Oh yeah. He read my letter.
Yeah. Did I see a video? I didn't watch the video, but is he working on a new AK?
Yeah. We're AK-50. Yes. That is the meme his followers have pounded to death. Yes, he is working on building a 50 caliber AK that actually functions.
So that would be a modification that would not be grandfathered in?
It's an AK base, but the receiver is different enough that they might say that's a new design and he's going to have both of the components serialized alike. And if something breaks in those, you're going to have to send back to Herrera to get it fixed.
Can you imagine? You're a YouTube guy, you create a meme gun.
And your paperwork burden just became twice as difficult. On the other hand, he's probably going to sell them for like 20 grand a pop. So
yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah.
So wait, that's a 50 caliber AK?
That's the end goal is 50 BMG.
Would you have a shoulder after that?
You could shoulder fire 50 BMG. It's not recommended, but people do shoulder fire their Barretts because they're nuts.
Oh man, that'd be good. Smeg Skull says, what about middleman sites? If I sell receivers on Alibaba and another user sells the machining kit, neither of us have to register, but does Alibaba have to register and serialize parts?
So if Alibaba is the one website you're both selling on, I mean, first of all, it becomes a question of, is this a foreign entity technically making the sale of U.S. firearm parts? Because that's its whole other problem. But
let's change that to eBay.
Okay.
So like I sell receivers on eBay and then my next door neighbor sells the receiver kits on eBay.
Let's go ahead and use Gunbroker just because that way no one's going to bitch in the comments that, oh, eBay doesn't let you do that.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
that
so
works.
Gunbroker, if you're just two guys selling those things, your individual users, the way the website's set up is the website has no direct control. I mean, they have people selling machine guns and machine gun parts. Gunbroker does not have a special occupational tax to be a machine gun dealer.
Sure.
You know, that's perfectly legit because that's already the setup, because the end user, the end seller is not Gunbroker.
So they're like Kazaa or LimeWire. They're orchestrating peer-to-peer business connections. That's the middleman. The product isn't actually running through them, so it doesn't matter.
Pretty much. Yeah.
What about, are you familiar? I don't think they do this, but hypothetically, there's a company called StockX. They started with shoes. And so with StockX, what you do is you look for something that's out of stock. Like I just bought my wife the Lego Titanic on StockX because you couldn't find it in stores. Guess what I fucking found? I ordered this thing for her on StockX. It's just like $50 over retail. And I'm like, oh, okay, killed it. Cool. It gets delivered to our house. Like 2 days later, we go to the Mall of America and we're just walking around and go into the Lego store and they have a fucking Titanic kit right there. I was so pissed, Ben. You have no idea.
That's perfect. You build two. You have your before, and then you have the other one broken in half as your after.
Right. There you go. I was so mad. But anyway, so with StockX, what you do is you order the thing and they actually have to ship it to StockX, who verifies that what you ordered is actually in the package.
See,
and then
that would become an issue.
Okay.
Because at that point, they're basically sending from the same source and the person with the same control. I mean, ultimately, it will be up to the ATF director. But I could totally see the ATF saying, yeah, no, now StockX is shipping kits.
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, they do. Like they take the product in, they make sure it's actually in the box. Someone didn't just put a brick in there or whatever. And then they verify it and ship it off to you. It's, that's part of the convenience fee of using StockX or whatever. Not the convenience fee, but the guarantee of using it. It's, that's, since you're basically buying from a scalper site, you want to make sure you're getting your right product. But as far as I imagine, they don't allow gun transfers at all through StockX anyway. Like I said, they started out with shoes because shoes were very hard to get, I guess. I don't know.
The trick, I guess if they're verifying each thing, that would be more difficult, but people still sell firearm parts on eBay. They're not supposed to because they're just machine parts.
Right. But on eBay, you're not sending it to eBay.
Right. Yeah. If they're actually verifying what's in there, they get pretty wise pretty fast that, oh, wait, no, this is an AR upper.
Yeah. AD says Calder versus Bull needs to be overturned. Ex post facto needs to apply to all laws, criminal and civil. There you go. Yeah. I'm not familiar with Calder versus Bull off the top of my head.
Yeah. Neither am I off the top of my head. I mean, I could look it up, but
I agree that ex post facto laws there should not be a thing such as retroactive application of law. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, well, this wasn't illegal. Oh, now it is. And it's also illegal back when you did it. Like, well, what the fuck is that? Like, yeah, we're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, that case was 1798. So,
yeah. Rumble username sucks says, so which page has the serializing 4473 requirements again? My first read as a layperson seemed to indicate that you could design a new lower that was compatible with AR uppers and ignore those.
So that would be the interesting thing, because if you're designing a new AR lower, if it's compatible with an AR upper, the question would be, is it technically a new design or is it just a variant of an AR lower? Because the AR family is grandfathered. But then you have the read where it says, well, if you're modifying the receiver, it becomes a new design. And ultimately, the problem is these are very vague things that are going to be left up to further ATF rulings and determination letters and the ATF director. And it might be that, like, I can't remember which company it is that makes the skull receivers for AR-15s or the Spartan receivers. If they craft another one of those that's brand new, is that a new design? Unfortunately, the rule has language that goes both ways on that because it's bi-curious.
720 Red Dog, calm down, homie. Lots of people in the chat shoot guns. I shoot guns just because I don't spend my life in gun law because it's not my specialty. It's not my area of practice. Does not mean that I don't have have an interest in what's going on.
Yeah.
You need to calm down. There's tons of gun owners in the chat. Being
I
weird.
specialize in gun law in part because it means I get to shoot machine guns a lot that I don't have to pay for.
Rumble username suck further says 479.102 identification of firearms looks to be the section requiring serialization. Does that apply to private manufacturers assembling a gun from parts for a hypothetical new design?
So again, as far as it goes, if you're a private manufacturer making a private manufacturer firearm for yourself, there's no real serialization requirement at that time until you go to sell it or transfer it.
Right.
What they're talking about, new designs and mutual serialization, that's for someone who's got a manufacturing FFL, who's bringing a product to market that is a new design. And in terms of what the serialization is going to look like, look at the old German guns. When they used to serialize all their parts alike because you couldn't rely on everything being completely transferable from one gun to the other because manufacturing processes sucked. So that's basically what it's going to look like, is every little part's going to have the same serial number and the same markings on it. But that's not something that's applying to you making your 3D printed or your 80% thing. That's something that's applying to a manufacturer that says, hey, I want to bring a new design to market. That's why it might apply to Herrera, because the AK-50 might be determined because the receiver is AK-like, but is definitely not an AK receiver.
Right. Should private citizens own nukes?
Yes.
Attaboy.
All gun laws are infringements.
Thank you. Zwihu says, thoughts on forced reset triggers? ATF be like, we the lawmakers now.
So forced reset triggers, the way they have a rule interpreting what a machine gun is, they're saying, oh, this is a machine gun because it's continuous pullback of the trigger. I think they're wrong. I think, the FRT setup, they have pretty good solid basis for saying they're wrong, but the courts, are screwy. The whole administrative process for appealing the decision is screwy. They're on the losing end of this just because of the way the court setup is. That said, hopefully, when I have enough time and a focus set aside to do it and can find a 07 manufacturer who's got an SOT, we are going to try and bring our own forced reset trigger to the ATF's attention. And we're going to set it up as a machine gun manufacturer just so that in case they say it's a machine gun, we're just going to have a different means of doing the force. A little bit of thrusting, I think. Got to keep that dick joke going.
Yeah. Wait, do you have to put your cock in the
well, I'll put it this way.
Of the
Iron Horse, I believe it's Iron Horse Manufacturing with their thumb activated trigger, conveniently left us a receiver that has a nice opening in the back.
Oh no, Colin Shaw Indie Games says this seems to be worth 20, so you actually read it. I read all of them. I just read the 20s first. When you 3D print, you have to tweak settings for your printer, model, etc. No two printers are the same. Could they argue every print is a new design?
Again, you're doing private manufacturing.
Yeah.
This isn't what they're talking about, new design. What they're talking about for new design is someone who's bringing a firearm to market manufactured as a general manufacturing firearm. So, yeah, they could argue yours is a new design, but it won't affect whether or not you have to serialize it any differently than you're going to have to anyway. Now, to the extent it will affect it, if you go to sell it to a gun shop and the gun shop says, yeah, I'll buy this, they might have to put the serial number on both components. But that's the only time which it will affect it. So if you're making 3D printed designs to then sell to gun shops, first of all, why? But second of all, if you do, the burden's still not on you. It's on the gun shop that's buying it from you to figure out how to serialize it. And it's probably going to take a call to their ATF agent. And they're probably going to have to just do it out of an abundance of caution because the ATF decision is not going to come back in 7 days and they only have 7 days to market.
Crazy.
Yep.
SC Medic 71 says, welcome to the shit show, sir. Shit show, sir. Welcome to the shit show, sir.
I've been watching regularly since your Rittenhouse coverage. I saw your channel a few times before that because I was in talks with Jeremy from the Quartering back when he had his Indy incident, and he mentioned your name. So I saw your channel a few times, but I didn't really do a lot of YouTube much until last year, thanks to all the COVID slowdown.
Well, welcome to the shit show, sir.
Yeah.
No, it's
shit show
I've
family
seen you,
court.
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't even. I hate you. I assume you do some family practice because you said you do everything.
I do, unfortunately, more than my fair share. I coined the local probate family court as the place hopes and dreams go to die. That
Yeah.
quote's
Do you ever
mine.
just take it instead of taking a family law case? Do you ever just take a screwdriver and put it up on one of your teeth and bash it with a hammer? Because
No,
like,
but interestingly enough, because I took a criminal case, well, actually, I took a consult in the local jail. I have a chipped tooth off of that because the person I was talking to didn't like my results, and I met the wall hard.
oh shit.
Yeah, you can't see it on the camera, but my front tooth is chipped pretty badly because there's no
Damn.
repairing it. It'll just eventually chip to the point I have to pull it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
law is fun.
Yeah. That'll be fun. So I lost a tooth to a dog, one of my front teeth. And, I had a client threaten to punch my other tooth out because he didn't like what I told him. And I was like, I'm telling you the truth, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He wanted me to walk out of a deposition when they were going to ask questions about finances. And I was like, bro, it's a deposition. They're going to ask questions about finance. This is a civil suit. They can ask questions about your finances and you have to answer them. It's like, well, this other lawyer said I didn't. I'm like, well, that's cute. But if you don't answer those questions, you're going to be held in contempt and things that you'll be sanctioned. And that will be very bad for you. It's my job to make things not bad for you. And he's like, he's like, you keep telling me stuff. This other guy is telling me the other thing. I'm like, well, it's my job to represent you. It's his job to try and get your business telling you what you want to hear. I don't know. Like, if you like his answers, I'm like, fire me, go hire him. I don't care. But then he got really pissed off and threatened to punch my other tooth out. So
Yeah.
then I fired him.
Suck.
I fired him at that point.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah, it's like, hey, buddy.
I fired a few clients who I had that kind of issue with. But no, for the most part, I get to pick and choose my clients because I'm on my own. So I usually have pretty decent relationships with them because I either say, fuck no, I'm not taking this case, or yeah, sure, this is something I'll take.
Yeah, I always did too until that guy.
Yeah.
Which is bad because until that day I had a pretty decent relationship with him, but he got very, very mad. It was a sad day. At ... says, apologies if this has already been addressed and I just missed it, but does this new order have any effect on buying something like a lone upper receiver for an AR-15? And I think I can field this one. No, because it's an existing design. It's grandfathered in. The only time that would become a problem is if someone were to try and develop some new designed upper receiver for the AR-15, like something cool where it takes, I don't know, 2 rounds out of the it takes 2 rounds out of the chamber at the same, or out of the magazine at the same time, and fires them both down a double barrel setup, which would be awesome. They should do that. I don't know why.
Well, actually, double barreled AR receivers exist. I think those would still be existing. Yeah, there's was it the Gilboa or whatever? Yeah, there's 1 or 2 designs that did the double barrel. They're gimmicky. They're
yeah, but can we go with Gillette on this? Fine, 3 barrels then.
Oh yeah.
Fuck it, 5 blades.
Yeah. Well, shit. At that point, just get yourself a minigun. There's 6 or 7 of them available on the transferable. You only spend $100,000 or so for them. You know.
And then the ammo.
Yeah. You'll spend a house worth on the gun and spend 2 houses worth on the ammo for one good shooting session.
I watched. I used to watch Mail Call with Gunny from Full Metal Jacket or whatever.
Yeah, Army.
Yeah, and he did I think it was him, and he got to fire the minigun mounted on the top of a Humvee, and there was like a Toyota Camry out in the desert, and they just fucking lit it up. It's like, yes, everybody wants to destroy a Toyota Camry. Oh yeah. God. Amplify the Signal says, would this new rule stifle new designs with a modular fire control group similar to a P320 or a P365?
So the P320 and the P365 is under the P320 umbrella. Although the P365, to clarify, the frame is the firearm on the P365, not the fire control group. It looks like a P320, but it's not. But the P320 itself, with its individual fire control group, is on the grandfathered list. Now, if someone developed a similar but significantly different concept, ATF director might say it's a new design. I don't think that part's necessarily going to get stifled as long as, for instance, they design something that you can drop the P320 trigger group into. That would be the easiest way to do it. Say, okay, well, we're not going to necessarily develop a new type of housing, but we can develop all the externals. As long as the P320 housing fits into it, we're golden.
So let's transition a little bit, like a college swimmer, and I'd like to talk to you about red flag laws.
Okay.
How are you on red flag laws? How do you like those things?
I did a whole ranting CLE on them the other year, and I've done other rants. So my issue with red flag laws, and I'll go specifically into Indiana. Indiana has one of the oldest in the country. And Indiana's is named after a dead state trooper who died in a shootout that, had there been a red flag law, wouldn't have changed a single damn thing. But They named the law after a dead state trooper, so it passed overwhelmingly, and no one's ever going to touch it, and we're all screwed here in this state. My huge issue with it is we have on the books a law that many other states have something similar, the 72-hour hold law, the mental health hold law.
Baker Act, yeah.
And it says basically the same thing in terms of your gun rights. The difference is if you are held involuntarily for psychiatric issues, you don't get your gun rights because of that. If you're ordered held involuntarily after the first 72 hours, you lose your gun rights off of that, which the red flag law would do. But with the mental health law, you actually get help. And there's a procedure for getting you help as the first step. With the red flag law, the first step is we're seizing your guns, go fuck yourself, try to get them back. And then in Indiana, the burden is on you to show, oh no, I don't need to be restrained for my guns anymore. I'm better. I've gotten checked out. But in Indiana, unfortunately, because case law here sucks, we have a setup where the prosecutor can look at the previous report on you and say, no, his mental health was horrible when we seized the guns, so we're going to keep these guns. And it's your burden to get a new doctor to say that, no, you're completely and totally cured. You're not going to have this mental health issue again, if that's the reason. We're not as open in terms of, someone's cousin's ex-girlfriend can report you.
Right. That was my next question.
But Indiana, in terms of the seizure and getting your guns back, generally it's people who feel you're a threat to yourself or others. Close relationship, but it can also be your coworkers. It's basically a question of, have you contacted the police and said this person's a danger to themselves or others? And then the police can say, oh, we're going to red flag you. Whereas with the mental health, if you're a danger to yourself or others, you get 72 hours in a psychiatric facility, ideally, for them to decide if that's true. And then the consequences kick in. But it's not like you get your guns during those 72 hours. You're not a threat. You're in a lockdown facility being examined for 3 days.
Right.
And then if you're a threat to yourself, you lose your gun rights. But the way Indiana's red law is, the burden of proof's on you to show you're not a threat. You've already lost your guns, and you may never get them back.
And if you do get them back, you're going to spend minimum 5 figures getting them back.
Not that much necessarily.
No?
I mean, certainly I don't charge anywhere near that for that kind of thing, but high 4 figures probably. And that's if everything goes simple.
Because, I figured it'd be 10 grand as a matter of course.
Not really, because I mean, I don't really charge that much, but in terms of what I would require, it might only be 1 hearing if everything goes right. But that's if you get a great psychiatric report from your new psychiatrist. If you don't have that, then it's 2 hearings, then it's 3 hearings, and then then you're spending 5 figures.
Yeah. I'm just a pessimist.
Yeah. Well, and the case law is set up that way.
Right.
The case law is set up so that once the guns are seized, it's almost impossible to get them back. And there's no reason for it, because basically what you're saying is the police have chosen to take your guns in the way that provides you the least amount of help, when there's a statute on the books that would actually provide you help if you are in fact having mental health issues.
Right.
But we don't want to do that. And meanwhile, the reason we have a red flag law is because of a guy who had a psychiatric issue that wasn't treated. So rather than say, oh boy, if he'd only been applied in terms of using the 72-hour hold, this wouldn't have happened. Said, no, we'll create a red flag law. That's how we'll fix it. It's stupid.
Well, the red flag law is designed to, it's not designed to help people at all.
No, it's designed to seize guns.
Yep. And everybody supports it because they don't know that there's already protection from those sorts of things. They don't know there's already an avenue for it. They just go, oh, well, I wouldn't want a crazy person having guns. I mean, what if they have a mental breakdown and go shoot up school? It's like, well,
what it is, and I think I have it set up as a 2-hour or 4-hour CLE, depending on, how many credits I need that year and how much I can convince to get certified for. But yeah, basically it's just a denial of due process rights. That's it.
mm-hmm.
Red flag laws aren't about rights of the person the guns are being seized from. They're specifically about keeping those rights. I'm not talking about the gun rights. I'm talking about your basic due process rights. They're about circumventing your due process rights because, guns are bad.
Yeah, because they preemptively state that you are not, that you are guilty, not of a crime, but you're guilty of having a mental condition because someone reports it and they take the report credibly. Those two things have to happen, but
there's no doctor certification behind that either.
Right.
With the mental health hold, you're actually having a doctor certify, is this person having issues or not? Are they a threat to themselves or others? You're taking away all of that in favor of, well, your ex-girlfriend said. And that's stupid and insane.
Oh, it's crazy. The idea that that they're going to show up and do this to you based on a report that has no doctor basis and is I don't know if the standards are the same specifically, but I would imagine they largely just reflect the warrant requirement. How credible do we find the reporter? Are they a known person to the police officer? Are they a criminal informant of some sort? Or are they just a quote unquote concerned citizen? Do they have a history of untruthfulness that is known to the police officer? And if they don't fill any of those boxes, right? Like it's just like they know who they are because, oh, this is a person who lives in the community, who, works at the movie theater or something, has no significant criminal history, and doesn't have a history of false statements in civil courts or something like that. I mean, and they have
looked that far, honestly. It's similar to the warrant procedures, but yeah, they're not going to look to see if this person's, for instance, been convicted of perjury.
Right.
That is not a factor in this. And unfortunately, as with the federal courts and decisions by agencies, deference is given to the police decision to make the seizure. And, if this person's genuinely risk to themselves and others, how do the police know they're seizing all the guns? Why isn't he going into a psychiatric facility for examination? If he's a threat to himself, why are you taking the guns and then walking away? Because the purpose is to take the guns. And because, honestly, at the end of the day, tyrants fear the armed mob.
Yeah,
and it's telling that politicians vote overwhelmingly for red flag laws, that they put themselves in the category of, well, we're scared of the guns.
I hate them. I hate red flag laws. I think they're a complete violation of due process. I think that they're a violation of the Second Amendment, and it seems obvious to me. That's what bothers me about it. It seems obvious to me, and I encounter people who are relatively reasonable, but they're very skittish on guns, and they're like, no, I don't want. And you can explain to them all day. Yep. No, this doesn't really do that. How would you feel if someone did this to your TV or whatever? Because that makes you a danger to yourself if you're watching. Well, I don't know.
And what makes it real fun with that is, you get people who are like, oh, well, the guns are dangerous. We need to take them away. Okay. Well, if this person's because the standard is a danger to themselves or others. So you took the guns away and then you walked away and then he gets in his car. Well, he's still a danger to himself and others driving that car. If you threw him in a psychiatric facility for 3 days to examine him, you'd know. And he wouldn't.
In some cases, people are more dangerous with a car than they would be with a gun. Yeah. Actually, I would say in many cases, they're more dangerous with a car than a gun.
Well, there's a dude in Wisconsin with 77 counts facing him because he's way the hell more dangerous in his car.
Yeah. No, the car did that.
I know. Those damn SUVs.
That SUV drove into a crowd on its own.
Just dragging innocent drivers along for the ride.
Well, wasn't Oklahoma City, wasn't that a truck bomb?
Yeah. I mean, that truck just lost its temper.
That was 185 dead or something, I think, in the Oklahoma City bombing, something like that.
I actually don't remember off the top of my head, which I probably should, but I don't.
Yeah. It was a significant amount. There's no way that guy would have gotten into a federal building and plugged that many people. Well, I mean, I say no way, but we haven't had a mass shooting approach anywhere near that number in this country.
No. And as has been said repeatedly over and over, the single deadliest school violent incident was a bomb.
Right. Yeah. That was a long time ago.
Yep.
But
still effective.
yeah.
In Minecraft.
TNT is very effective in Minecraft.
Yes.
Tech Priest Alex says, do my eradication ray, emphatic obliterator, and destroyer nest bio launcher count as firearms? Yes.
Maybe. It depends. Because firearms are supposed to be explosive projectile. It depends on your setup.
Yeah, that's true, because cannons aren't firearms.
Well, cannons aren't firearms because they're black powder. And black powder is exempted federally. Now, in most states, they're still considered firearms or explosive devices because most states still regulate black powder. But yeah, federally, true black powder, not using that more modern cap, would be a non-firearm. But, I've explained to felons a number of times that it really doesn't matter what the federal law says because it's state law. Either the state still treats it as a firearm and you're screwed, or it doesn't treat it as a firearm, but it regulates black powder as an explosive and you're screwed.
That's what annoys me about there's a federal push to legalize marijuana. And I know that the boomer Republicans in my state are still going to try and keep it illegal at the state level. And it's like, do you guys just want to lose forever? Like, you want to just keep losing?
We absolutely, and honestly, I don't use drugs, but why we should legalize marijuana is because, first of all, it helps people who want to keep their gun rights and still use it. But also because fuck it, the government shouldn't be regulating that shit.
Exactly. That's the main thing. Like, this is safer. It's a safer. And again, I am not a fan of weed personally. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't like being out of it. It makes me too tired. I don't know if it like teams up with my narcolepsy, but I'm not a big fan. So you won't catch me doing weed most of the time because of that. So with that said, though, it is safer than alcohol. It is safer than cigarettes. It is safer than, I think, caffeine or sugar. It's like one of the least dangerous substances that can go in your body, generally speaking, for your health. And they're like, well, no, this is very, very bad. Let's make it the same as heroin. Like, okay.
Well, for what it's worth, I actually have no experience with drugs because I had access to alcohol at a young age. I was day drinking in elementary school. So,
damn.
Yeah. There's a reason I stopped using alcohol.
Yeah. D Watt says, what about edibles? No, they're even worse because when you get tired of being high, it doesn't go away. It lasts forever. It's terrible. I don't like it. Other people can. Other people are, have all the weed you want. Won't bother me. And you won't overdose. It's amazing. It's a medical miracle. It's the wonder drug in that way. And I know people like it, but I don't. And a lot of it has to do with, I do this show, and if I was on weed doing this show, it would be terrible. And I know that for a very specific reason. One time, I did the show a little bit high, and I was like, I don't know how long this show is, but I hate it. It was not good. It was not good at all. It was terrible. Chase Sepulvedo says, what about the FNX 45 Tactical? I have no idea what that is. Do you know?
It's an existing design in the sense that it only has to be serialized on one part. It's grandfathered in. And in fact, if you look at the diagram, they kind of did a generic catch-all semi-auto pistol with a bunch of different company names attached to it, just saying, yeah, it's grandfathered. Because the reality is that the semi-auto pistol is always going to be a split frame. But the issue is not the FNX Tactical 45. The issue is, what does FN's next generation pistol look like? Is that going to be technically a new design? And if so, it's not necessarily going to be more hassle on your end, but because it's going to be more hassle on FN's end, it's going to cost more. And it's going to cost more pretty much at every level. And then you're going to run into gun shops that frankly don't want to stock that shit because it's more trouble than it's worth for them.
Yeah. And for people asking what episode it was, I legitimately don't remember. It was probably over a year ago. If I knew, I would tell you straight out, but all I knew is that it was a nightmare for me to do that show. I didn't know what was going on. It was a mess. What about the brace classification?
So brace rule is the other rule that was drafted last year. Based on the ATF's budget thing they put out in January, I expect it to be coming out June to take effect in August, although now there's talk maybe coming out in August. The brace classification, I actually printed off because I thought that might come out, is the wonderful stupidity of we're going to make braces illegal again, but we're not. And they have this whole checklist now, runs to like 3 pages of is it or is it not a short barrel rifle? Is it still a pistol with the brace attached? It's all stupid. It's all pushback from everyone who kept saying letters into the ATF that didn't include the word fleshlight. Screw you guys. You did it wrong. And now they're banning braces outright, essentially. You can have a brace on your AR pistol as long as your AR pistol doesn't look anything like an AR anymore. And they have the stupid point space system, and it's going to suck. And all I can recommend to you guys at that point is when the rule comes out, before the date it takes effect, take your braces off, sell them, get rid of them, or pay for the SBR stamp. It's the only way you're going to stay out of trouble.
The SBR being the short barrel rifle stamp, right?
Yeah, the $200 stamp, and then your weapon's on the federal registry, and now it's a short barrel rifle, and now you can't cross state lines without federal permission. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That'll
That
be fun.
said, I'm a fan of them because, like I said earlier, good Jew, I like clipping the tips of guns.
Schmeckle.
I actually did that to a pistol frame because I could not find it in the size I wanted to fit the slide I had, and it was actually a P320. So I took a different one, and I took my Dremel tool because I are gunsmith, and I clipped the tip of the frame. It works just fine.
Well, there you go.
It's my circumcised P320.
Home remedies.
Yeah.
Did you like pull the tip of it off with your lips? Like, is that the thing that you have to do?
No. I mean, that's the thing you do at circumcision, but no. I was using the Dremel tool, and I've already cut my hands enough times screwing around with tools to know better than to try and pull at the Dremel with my teeth. Yeah.
Don't lie. That's how you chipped your tooth. You just came up with a cool jail story.
That's how I got these fine scars on my hands. Yeah.
Rumble username sucks says, so in other words, maybe someone could make a new design, not a full firearm, and sell unserialized parts for home assembly, but the ATF will still fuck them over with the ambiguity in the regulation.
Yeah, well, especially if they're selling those parts, even just separately, if it's coming from the same source, the ATF's gonna say, no, that's a firearm.
Right.
And it better be serialized. And then, you say, well, no, it's not. And then you can argue you're going to spend a shit ton of money. Once you're in federal court, you're talking 5 figures easy, probably 6 figures on even the smallest issues.
What do you think about the Ghost Gunner 3?
As a concept, I love it. You can't stop the signal.
Yeah.
I'm all for 3D printing firearm parts and firearms. The more the merrier. And if nothing else, I love to see that people in Europe are getting around their insane gun control laws with that shit.
Well, the Ghost Gunner that's a CNC.
Yeah.
Machine.
It's basically an 80% jig built into the machine itself.
Right. Is that going to be, do you think that'll be impacted at all by this regulation since it's technically a jig?
They will be impacted if they sell receivers at all.
Okay. So if they sell the 80%
jig.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they're selling just the CNC machine, they're basically just selling the tool. But if they sell anything close to the receiver, even if they sell just a block of aluminum, I think they'd be running into trouble.
Richard, I didn't skip your super chat. I do all the 20s first, and then I do the rest. That's how I've done this for about 3 years now. But I will go ahead and read yours because I think it's interesting. Richard Sprague says, new California lawyer here repping an ex-Vietnam vet who got flagged by a nurse practitioner who didn't like him. No 5150 or 5250. Can you please generally outline the process to restore his gun rights? Thanks.
I know jack shit about the specifics of California law. In terms of restoring firearm rights federally, he would have to, if he's been adjudicated as mentally, having mental issues, you would have to see if California is one of the states, and there is a program that the FBI has for removing that issue. But you have to meet the requirements of the program. I don't know if California is one of those states, but you would have to basically have a clean bill of health and meet all the filing requirements within the FBI's program before you could remove that impediment on the federal level. As far as state level goes, I have no clue. That's California gun laws are screwy, and I try not to ruin my brain getting too deep into them. The only reason I really know the federal thing, other than, doing gun laws, years ago, I tried to get someone removed from that here in Indiana. And even though the FBI said that Indiana was on their approved program list, then they said, no, Indiana's not. And unfortunately, because I live in northern Indiana, where death by train is a common occurrence, we were in the middle of processing that when my client became a train statistic.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, on average, one person a week somewhere in northern Indiana gets hit by a train. So
why are people in Indiana so bad at avoiding trains?
Well, we're basically the crossroads of America, especially for the railroad. And
I guess
there's always someone trying to cross the tracks, and there's plenty of places where you cannot see the train coming, or you think, oh, well, I have time to make it. And then there are places where the bars don't come down in time. And, then there are the suicides who add to those statistics and make everyone more aggravated at the closings. But unfortunately, the statistics are about one a week somewhere in northern Indiana. And unfortunately,
crazy.
It was my client's number midway through the process. So I never saw the end result of that.
Damn. Disgruntled D says, so go back and read my $10 chat. Okay, Disgruntled D, I will. He says, have you seen St. Paul's mayor calling for, quote, proper firearm storage laws? Because between his father and himself, they've had 5 firearms lost or stolen.
I love it doesn't seem like a problem with firearm storage so much as it does with St. Paul's mayor.
Yeah, I love when politicians try and save us from their retardation. That's
I will
super
say,
great.
If you own guns, for the love of God, don't put gun stickers on the back of your truck. And if you do, for the love of God, don't keep a gun in the truck. You're just asking to have that gun stolen. But other than that, fuck that dude.
Yeah, it's the St. Paul mayor. I mean, he's a giant pile of garbage anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing worse than being the St. Paul mayor is worse than Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis, only because no one knows who the St. Paul mayor is. So that makes him like a mayor cuck to the bigger city next door. It's like everybody pays attention to the stupider liberal next to him.
Oh, that's right. The Twin Cities has a Twin City name. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Zwihu says, speaking about California, have you seen the CalGuns AWB flowchart to know if you go to jail or not?
No. Yeah, that's meme worthy. The answer is basically, yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah. Just on the topic of restoring gun rights, I mean, I don't know what California's process is, but in Minnesota, basically what you have to do is it has to be an expungible crime or you have to get a pardon. Yeah. And then, like you said, you have to petition ATF to get it removed.
So the way it works, actually, in general, you get your expungement. You're not petitioning ATF. You're petitioning FBI. They control the NICS system. And the reason you're petitioning them is not because you're supposed to have to, but because they don't do updates worth a damn.
Right.
When you get your expungement, the state's supposed to send those records. And the FBI is supposed to update the NICS system. And you still have to petition. And you might have to take them to federal court to make it go fast. That's unfortunately a common occurrence when you know that NICS got it wrong and you shouldn't be an improper person. You do the appeal and nothing happens for a year, and then you sue them and suddenly everything gets fixed in 20 days because then they can dismiss the case because now there's no relief for you to have.
Yeah.
But as far as the process goes, the reason you have to do it at the state level is because there is an office in the ATF where you are supposed to be able to apply for a federal restoration of your firearm rights. And Congress, because Congress, regardless of where they sit, are all a bunch of assholes, has agreed to not fund that office for going on 3 decades now. So people send in their letters and say, hey, I'm applying for restoration of my federal rights. And, 6 months, a year later, they get a letter back saying, we could not process your request. And the courts have upheld that as okay because they're not denied requests. They're just not processed.
That's
fuck Congress.
That's insane. Congress sucks.
Fuck the ATF, fuck Congress. But yeah, if you look at any budget, all of their agreed upon budgets for the ATF every year since 1990 something, mid 90s, early 90s, no funding for this office. No restoration of federal rights, even though it's in the law.
Hate Speech says last night on Timcast, they were talking about a gun trust, which you can put your guns into, then you don't own them. The trust does.
Yeah.
Look, Yes, but I have a nightmare about people watching Timcast to learn about gun trusts
Oh, it's horrible.
unless they had a lawyer on discussing them.
So I actually make and sell Indiana legal gun trusts and Michigan legal gun trusts. Trust law is very state specific, so don't get the generic ones online. Go to a lawyer in your state to do it right. But my favorite story about gun trusts is the people who are using the online stuff on ARFCOM, AR15.com years ago. Someone posted their model trust and said, "Oh, look, I got this gun trust for my Title II, my NFA stuff. It's great. Just use it, copy mine. It'll be great." And according to the ATF, enough idiots use that copy without understanding the legalese behind it that somewhere out there, there's a listed beneficiary who's going to inherit a shit ton of machine guns someday because they didn't know to change the name.
Oh, God.
And there's someone out there who's the named beneficiary on dozens and dozens and dozens of gun trusts from people who didn't want to spend the money on a lawyer. I love that story.
Several years ago, gun trusts were more useful than they are now.
Yeah.
ATF used to have there used to be a rule in the Firearms Act about fingerprinting and having identification, like a photo identification done to get your SBR tax stamp, right, as an individual. And then what the gun trust allowed you to do was to create an entity that wasn't a person, but rather an entity that would own the gun. And then the trustees would be allowed the temporary rights of possession as trustees for the gun. And you could have multiple people as trustees who would have access to this. It made transfers really easy also because you could set up beneficiaries and guns could pass down straight through. But the ATF actually did something right a couple years ago in some ways, and they mitigated the value of those by making it slightly more convenient to be an individual owner of one of these guns and eliminating some of the use of the gun trust. So like the main value of them was diminished pretty heavily by that, from my understanding.
Yeah. So there were actually two main values, and I kind of go into this just because I do make gun trusts. The value before was your trustees didn't have to get the prints or the photos, which was great. And that's changed. And now they're a hassle in the sense that all your named trustees have to supply their prints and their photos every time you buy something, which is a pain in the ass. But you still have the beneficiary thing where all the guns in the trust can transfer tax-free on a Form 5 to the beneficiary when the trust terminates. The other huge advantage that they still retain, though, is that under federal law, if you individually possess a Title II, an NFA item, an SBR or a machine gun or a short barrel shotgun, only you can possess it. If your wife, for instance, is using it, you have to be standing over her shoulder. If you leave it in the car and she drives it, technically she's violated federal law.
Right.
But the trust still lets you say, okay, well, we're both trustees. We both have equal right of access. And it avoids that. It allows you to say, like, for instance, I have a trustee who I see every now and then. We go to the same shoot once a year. They're a trustee so that I can walk away from the firing line and not have to package up the guns first, because he's a trustee and he's still there supervising. And at that shoot, like when I bring the beneficiary of the trust along, that way the beneficiary can still shoot supervised without everything coming to a halt because I got to go use the head.
Right.
And it's convenient that way. But yeah, it is definitely more of a paperwork hassle in terms of getting all the trustees to submit their photos and their fingerprints every damn application.
And if you change, and if you change trustees, see, that was the other advantage, was you could change trustees pretty simply.
Oh, you still can do that.
But now you have to trustees,
No, the only time ATF gets the fingerprints and the photos is every time you make a new application. So you can swap trustees in between all that, and there's no additional paperwork. You just have to have the revocation of trustee or the addition of trustee added to the documents you send to the ATF so that the next time around they can see who's currently on your list. But yeah, you don't have to send them updated prints or photos.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, and so I did gun trusts, they're half complicated and half uncomplicated. But I always fear whenever I hear Tim Pool was talking about X, it's like, okay, well, who is helping him talk about it?
Right. Well, and that's the huge problem is, again, trusts are very state specific. If you get your average gun trust that you found on a website on the internet, it might not legally be a trust in the state you live in. And if the ATF reviews it, which they do, and says, this isn't actually a trust. You now have X number of days to surrender all your NFA items or pay transfer tax to transfer them all back into your name immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things go haywire real fast with bad trusts.
And it's a mess. Okay. Next, Mike Marcel DeFore says, Nick, your chat is glowing so bright tonight. I had to put on sunglasses. Austin Olson says, if I were to purchase the Ghost Gunner 3, could I be labeled a manufacturer if I allowed friends and family to use it?
Possibly, yes. If you're letting them use it, especially if they're paying you for it, or if you're basically designating this is for, the reason I say possibly yes is because the ATF does have a specific rule determination regarding FFLs, gun shops that have that equipment available and had build party nights. And their determination was, even if money wasn't being transferred, that the FFL was becoming a manufacturer. So possibly yes.
Okay. Josh Marhall says, first super chat, thank you, because F the ATF. Also wanted to plug my friend's new startup, Cenex Arms. He's designing a bullpup that is compatible with many AR parts, all within a single frame. Check him out. Peace. That's SENEX Arms. So you guys can check that out. I assume throw it into Google or whatever. Speaking of checking things out, where can people find you?
They can find me. My only actual law firm website's a Facebook page that I basically just post memes on. It's facebook.com/Hoosier Attorney, because I thought that was a clever pun. But Hoosier as in HOOSIER, the Indiana term attorney. And
Hoosier Attorney.
it's facebook.com/Hoosier Attorney.
Facebook.com. I'm putting it in the description right now.
Yeah.
Hoosier Attorney.
And mostly I post some legal issue stuff. Like I had a very detailed post on the ATF seizure of some airsoft guns a few years ago, because that was one where I thought the ATF actually got it right and it merited further discussion. But mostly I post memes mocking being an attorney and how awful it sucks to be a lawyer.
Well, it's awful because you decided to make a Facebook page called Hoosier Attorney because you're in Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Most of my business doesn't come, from website or anything. I have a core of clients that use me for a lot of overlapping stuff.
Right.
I get a lot of good referrals that way. And I have an agreement with the local bar association that they send me the hopeless and the crazy, and I don't pay fees. So I'm a member without paying fees, and all I have to do is listen to people and explain to them you don't have a case, or you do have a case, but you let the time limit lapse and you're screwed. And then listen to them sob and say, well, you got half an hour. It's been 30 minutes. Click. I'm really good at that.
Aw.
I've become very callous and more than a bit of an asshole, even where I was from 15 years ago.
Yeah. And I had troubles with that. And that's one of the reasons I like doing this better.
Yeah. I used to have, when I had to do evictions, trouble evicting people with their salary cases, but I got to the point where screw it. You've had weeks and weeks. You haven't talked to us at all. You had your chance. You blew it. And then, I always ask the judge for a final possession order. I don't want to screw around with, post a bond or this or that other. Let them stay 3 extra days as long as they fucking get out.
Yeah. Leave.
Yeah.
Double Brewski. Sorry, I did miss this one. Double Brewski says, I can't remember the name of the case, but I believe there is a Supreme Court case where they ruled that, quote, a right cannot be converted into a privilege and a fee charged thereof. Thoughts on that? I'm sure there's something that says that, but it's been done a million times since that case.
But guns are special according to the court because guns are bad and icky and all that crap.
Exactly.
Because shall not be infringed is apparently those words that aren't in their dictionary.
Well, shall not be infringed until it is infringed. I mean, that's how it goes. But I mean, it's most prevalent with the Second Amendment, but it's not limited to the Second Amendment. I mean, the First Amendment is, you have Congress shall make no law abridging the right of free speech until they do. And they just call it a time, place, and manner restriction. Or they say it's reasonable because it's commercial speech, or it's not as protected of a type of speech, or it's this, they make laws abridging speech all the time, rules and regulations abridging speech. With the Second Amendment, though, it's just so much more obvious, and it's so much more accepted by everybody.
Yeah.
But the time, place, and manner restrictions, people are fine with them all over the place too. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Well, the city says I can't put up a sign in my yard. That's your fucking yard. Like, what do you mean you can't put it up?
I wish my camera had the ability to catch widescreen. A few years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, some idiot kid on their bike, who freakishly large basketball player, like 6'4", whatever, hit his head on a tree that I have growing over the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Now, that tree is the only bit of plant life I've ever put money and life into. Like, I've spent a decade growing it to create shade in my yard and over the sidewalk. Normal heighted people walking don't hit their heads, and you're not supposed to bike on the sidewalk. But this kid hit his head, and I got a notice from city code enforcement to cut down that tree branch. So I went to Vistaprint, and I ordered a big sign that said, "This tree that has provided shade has been cut down by order of the city of Mishawaka to protect criminals." And I got this big banner. I put it on my fence for a summer just because screw them all. And the city was not happy with that, but it was on my property and they can go fuck themselves because it is completely free speech. And I didn't use any of the words I actually wanted to use.
There's a guy just down the road from me who's had a sign up since election day that just says, "Fuck Biden and fuck you for voting for him."
Works for me.
It's like, but we live just outside the city limits, so there's no one to. I don't think the county commissioner is going to come out to his house and complain. So it's pretty funny. It's huge too.
Time, place, manner is just the things we let be restricted because we're not willing to fight. On the other hand, we're not willing to fight because most of us don't want to go to prison over it.
Well, that's the thing. It's the convenience, it's the expense, it's the time, and at the end of the day, it's the prison. Yeah, that's the one that really seals the deal on most of this stuff. Okay, you've been watching the show for a while. You know what time it is?
Yep. I'm going to pass only because between the speech impediment and my tendency to say words without thinking them all the way through, I'm probably not going to be able to binger it all the way.
Are you going to hang out for the reading though?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Let me get the random number generator up here.
And while you're doing that, because I've had this on my hat all night, I don't know if my camera's going to pick it up right. I've been wearing this patch around town the past few days. Let's see if I can do this.
I support that current thing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Just to screw with people.
Here we go, chat. Page 250. Oh, I'm so excited every time.
Is that in the repetitives or is that?
Nope. That's awesome. That's. Oh boy. Well, this one might involve your people a little bit, but we'll have
most of them seem to. So
yeah, this guy's not the biggest fan of Jews.
Yeah, join the club.
All right, we've got to have the. I got to play the intro here. Here we go. Unbreaded. Welcome, friends, to another daily Unbreaded. As you know, this is the words of Matthew Harris in his book, Death Sentences by Matthew C. Harris. Matthew Harris being a former UCLA philosophy professor who rewrote his dissertation with more colorful language and posted it. It is 800 pages long, and we pick one page at random every night to go ahead and read. Today we have page 250. And it's important to note because someone always seems to not hear this, but it is page 250 on the file that we're going with, not on the page. The page will show page 249. So please don't tell me that I picked the wrong page. I did not. It is actually page 250 on the document. So with that, I will read these words of wisdom from Matthew Harris. And I think today we'll do it like this. The Jew shouts at bingers and bitches who don't try to have sex or who are going through a self-imposed celibacy to work hard or for moral reasons. The Jew also shouts at bingers and bitches who are not having sex in a culture the Jew designed so that the Jew can control who gets sex, apps, media, social media, and banking system. Given the evil control of the Jew and crackers, this hypocrisy cannot be tolerated. Celibacy must be the law until the perfect partner is found. Polygyny is natural for Matt Harris. I'm going to get mine. My paradise is overdue. Don't let the Jew tell you what your body means. A binger doesn't want feminist allies. A binger hates feminists. You don't have rhythm. You can't take over shit. Go back to fucking dogs. Take any song in history. A binger remix is always better than the original if you heard it first. Who's the character of consciousness? No one. Special bulletin philosophy professor stabbed to death in LA. People who think reading books makes you smarter and fucking stupid because they are just responding to being surrounded by other people who read books. Ocular centrism ain't shit. Reading ain't shit. You're all too fucking white and obsolete. Reading ain't shit. Fuck your mode of existence. Fuck readers and fucking die of a painful disease immediately. Most bingers don't know what the Jew is. Some bingers do, and we call them celebrities. Don't call blinks celebrities. A mansion where you share a zip code is pointless. NYC is trashy. A perfect bunker in the middle of nowhere is a palace. Too much tolerance and coexistence has ruined everything. It's time for genocide. Abajo conquered Turkmenistan. Fuck judges. Love doesn't exist. Death to the Jimbei. No guardian angels exist. This binger in spaceship. I ain't no brazen bull. Santa Ana ain't shit, but has shit in his blood. It's called being possessive, and it's not a bad thing. Paris Hilton is Anne Frank with dyed hair. Academic publications censor the truth and reinforce white and Jewish lies. To speak the truth, a binger must self-publish. The best books in history were not peer-reviewed or published by the colleges. The best philosopher in history did not publish at a college. Colleges should be terrorized for actually selling grades. Any student who attends class is expected to get a B or higher, even at Duke and UCLA. Grade inflation means grades don't mean anything. A binger can't teach about race. Students can complain about hard assignments and whine to get a higher grade. Kill everybody named Dan or Vlad. My ex wasn't attractive. I just didn't hold it against her. I'm neither a coconut nor a bee collector. Comedy is an irrelevant distraction until bingers have reason to smile in their personal lives. Most comedy is Jewish propaganda. There is nothing entertaining or sensual about Asians. There is nothing but the dead energy of an oscillating gerbil. Poison their blood, saying duh and derp causes terminal cancer. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was
Unbread.
What the hell?
He's not wrong about college. I plead the fifth on judges.
This one had a lot of those Matthew Harris isms where it's like, kill everybody named Dan or Vlad. Wait, what? What the hell was that? Oh God. Yeah, this one. Abajo conquered Turkmenistan. Oh, okay. What? All right. Well, that was fun. Let me I think we got a couple more chats that came in from that. SC Medic 71. Hey Rackets, can I get a shout out for a friend's podcast? This is True Crime, y'all. That's the name of the podcast. This is True Crime, y'all. It's on YouTube, and she has cool in-depth stories about some really wild serial killer cases. So check them out, guys, if you're into that whole true crime thing. Kyan Rennell says all citizens should have the right to own nukes is a Tim Pool level of obtuseness for the Second Amendment argument. Can't take anyone seriously who thinks this. This dude is deaf, a no balls on Futa guy.
Actually, if you're going to cross the line, you cross it all the way. So balls.
Yes. Full balls. Exactly. No, but I agree with you. The way the Constitution is written, there's no distinguishing characteristic that says that you cannot have a nuke. Now, if you don't want to have citizens have nukes, just amend the Constitution.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like, that's the whole thing. Of course, it's amending the Constitution isn't simple. That's the problem that they have. That's why I hate Marbury versus Madison, by the way. It made those amendments even less likely to occur because we could just get the courts to do things for us. But that's the answer. If you don't want citizens to have nukes, create a special category and amend them out of the Constitution. There you go.
And to clarify, I mean, there's a distinction between what I believe versus what is clearly practical. I'm not saying go, drill that third hole in your basement tonight. Don't go to prison over this shit. You want a machine gun? Go find one, spend a house worth on it, pay the $200 tax stamp. But all gun laws are infringements. And Second Amendment refers to arms. A nuclear weapon is an arm. So yes, citizens should have nukes because that's the way the Constitution's written.
I should be able to stand in the middle of an elementary school juggling loaded 9mm. That should be.
DEA did it. I mean, that dude shot himself, but the DEA did it.
Wait, is that the guy who shoots himself in the leg at the school? That is one of the funniest fucking videos. It's like, well, I'm talking to you about gun safety. Oh,
I'm the only one in the room safe enough to.
Oh my God. Let's see. Colin Shaw Indie Game says, wow, when Tug went into Rogue Autotune today, that was amazing, but unbreaded Autotune is a whole new level. People have been asking me to do unbreaded Autotune for a while. I figured tonight was a good night to do it. So,
well, the government would regulate to semi-auto tune, but that's
not the full auto tune. You got to, with each note, you have to click. You have to do an individual auto tune pre-click for each syllable that you're going to auto tune.
Yeah, and if your finger doesn't move, no, that's full auto tune.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you can't just like put a rubber band on your mouse button either. That we joke, but wait till they do that. Wait till they like regulate out full auto guns from first person shooters. I mean, because it's just encouraging mass violence or something stupid. Like
I could see it.
It's not that strange, which makes me sad, boy.
Plus game manufacturers tend to roll over whenever something like that comes up. They're already removing the manufacturer's names from the firearms that you see in them. Like, who the hell cares?
Yeah, Sony would probably be first on the list. Sony's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. One button, press one bullet. I mean, God, one person, one vote. This all makes sense. Okay, sure, I'm gonna go ahead and read the super chats, unless there's any specific topics you wanted to hit before I do that.
No, I'm good. Okay. I've got hours and hours. If you want to get specific topics, we'd be here all month.
I would love to on a different show, but with this trial coverage, I'm dying.
Yeah, I figured as much. You're doing like 10-hour days, day stream. That's insane.
Yeah. So we'll read the super chats, wrap up this show, but I would love to have you back. Fascinating to talk to. It's always good to talk to people who have specializations that I don't have, but especially with interests that I do have. Because I like guns. I would love to know more about them, but it's a matter of cost priority. I have kids to pay for also. And
don't send your kids to college. Get a machine gun.
Yeah.
You'll feel better.
Well, see, if you get a machine gun, you could get all your kids into college if you play your cards right.
Yeah. But then I'd have to go from, count all the incidents on one hand to count all the incidents on two hands.
Man. No, I've got some busy days coming up because it's springtime and I ordered a dumpster. I'm so excited. I got so much shit that's going in that dumpster. Oh, I'm going to sneak stuff into the dumpster. My wife and kids, they don't even know. They won't know because they haven't seen this stuff in like 3 years anyway, and it's going in. 10 years from now, they're gonna be, where's that thing? I have no idea. Well, must have gotten lost in the move. Okay. CC says free men don't ask permission to exercise their rights. Now go and make your ancestors proud. That is not legal advice. It is not legal advice at all. Kalea, no, I'm not doing Twitch tonight. I need sleep. Friday will be some Twitch. Tomorrow night will be Twitch after the nighttime show, since there's no daytime stream on Friday. And then I might do a Twitch stream Friday during the day also. So there will be some Twitch coming up this week, but not tonight. All right. Radicalized Ryan over on Odyssey. Thank you for the Coin Comet sticker. Amplify the Signal says, are you saying I'm going to have to rebuild my ATF Point Buster AR pistol in August? I think it had between 36 and 42 points based off their score chart.
Nice.
Publius says, Germany's got engineers, Japan has businessmen, and America's got lawyers. It's not inaccurate.
No, it's not. That could have been something. I became a lawyer instead.
S. Asp says, Miller has never been fully adjudicated and needs to be. Well, I mean, according to the law, it has been fully adjudicated. Miller is binding precedent. It has all of the benefits of stare decisis. And, interestingly, Miller may be super precedental based on the way they define super precedent. Not that super precedent has an actual legal basis, but there's not much talk about seriously challenging Miller running around legal circuits that I'm aware of. There are not cases seriously challenging Miller, trying to overturn it. The cases that we see coming out all accept Miller as part of the due course of American history. So, which is a shame in my opinion, but I don't think Miller, nobody in the legal field considers Miller to not be fully adjudicated unless they're ranting. AK Clay says, so I build HK firearms as a hobby. This involves bending and welding a stamped receiver flat and populate parts. Do you think these would fall into the same category as a P80 or an 80% AR lower?
Yeah, unquestionably they do at that time. I mean, it's specific in the rules, specific in the law. The flat is essentially the HK version of an 80%. But it's grandfathered in. You don't have to worry about serialization if you're making a new design. And if you're home building it, you don't have to worry about serialization until you transfer it. Nothing changes for you.
Rottweiler says, so you're turning into the pun-isher? I hate puns.
Worse, that was already used tonight.
No land. Well, these are from earlier in the night. No Land's Lie says, is Nick considered a legal pundit? Ponton 21, Nick, people are just trying to have a little pun. CL Hunter, hey Nick, you need this is better. You need to play Shin Megami Tensei. It's turn-based JRPG version of Dark Souls. Oh, okay. How do you do that? I don't know what that even means. Contrarian 420 says Branca was a shooting competitor. Get him on. It's hard to get Branca on at night. Because I think like his recording studio is right below his bedroom and the sound goes straight up into it and his wife wants to murder him. Ash Ray says chat is in dire need of sensible pun control laws. God damn it.
Are
Mark
they just
W.
the issue there?
You know what? I can ban you. I can kick you off real quick.
That's the last one, but I mean, come on, guys. That one was obvious.
Mark W. says, you've had on Larry and Benjamin. When are you getting Michael Z. Williamson on?
He's the client that had me do the fleshlight letter.
Oh, that's him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sci-fi author, libertarian. He's definitely a gun collector because, as he points out, his gun collection has its own lawyer.
So I wonder if he knows Larry Correa.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They both do books for the same publishing house, the same convention circuits. Yeah.
Well, maybe
They're
I need
both
to
on
have
my
a
Facebook
panel.
friends list.
Maybe I need to have a panel with people on. That would be fun. David says, who in chat want? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the two of them on a late night panel, you would get a couple of 100,000 new subscribers.
David says, who in chat wants to join my club, the Branch Davidians? Matt Thompson says, perfect. Spend $5, buy and register plumbing parts, sell and buyback program in 2 months for $100. There you
That's
go.
the way to do it.
Auto. How many of those can you sell back? Like, can you roll up with like a barrel
It
full of them?
depends on the buyback program. Some of them have gotten wise and banned those in terms of accepting them. But there are smart people that go to their plumbing supply store, spend $30, build 5 or 6 of these things, go get a bunch of gift cards, and have grocery money, or sell the gift cards and then have money to go buy a real gun.
That's good stuff. Otto Rommel, I would like to understand the upper serial section more. If I have an AR-15, AR-10 lowers, will I be able to buy uppers without a serial? We answered this one. I think a different chat was sent, but yes, you will. Those are grandfathered in. So the only time that will change is if there is some new design part that comes out that changes it. ATF would have to decide if it is a new design, but it would have to be some significant difference, you would think. Kyan Rennell says channel names fairly legal or legal Smeagol. Matt Thompson, what about Hilti guns used in construction? I don't know what the hell a Hilti gun is.
I don't know either.
Okay. AD says, if the ATF rules go to SCOTUS, I read that one. Bear Lamb, if I could describe all the horrible things that a lifetime of inhaling paint has done to me in one word, that word would be brain damage.
I'm not saying there isn't any, but I only worked there for 2 years, so it's mild.
That was a good joke, though, right there. In one word, that word would be brain damage. Brilliant. Contrarian 420, Nick Ricada, I hereby charge you with multiple counts of felony man's laughter. Hashtag Streisand effect. Colin Shaw, Indie Games. I think Krigler had Control Pew as a guest before. Either of you should talk to him. Okay. I don't know who that is.
He's the 3D printer guy.
Oh, okay. I wanted to talk to Cody Wilson at some point, and I had him in DMs, and then he got arrested. I didn't get to talk to him.
Was that alleged map violations?
Yeah. Yeah.
This community is its own worst enemy.
That thing, that smelled like a setup to me, but I don't know. But don't go on sugardaddiesmeat.com. Like, let's just suggest that that's probably not, just don't do that. Don't do that. But she clicked over 18. I know, buddy. I know. I think, but the most interesting thing to me, I did videos about like how to defend Cody Wilson in that case. They ended up settling with, did you hear the terms of his plea deal?
No, I didn't follow it that closely.
It's fucking amazing. No jail time. He has 7 years of probation, with deferred adjudication. So the felony will fall off if he completes his 7-year probation, and no registry. So he will not lose his gun rights assuming he completes his probation effectively. And that was it. And for solicitation of a minor,
his attorney deserves a bonus.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, this is like one of the, in Texas, I think in like even in federal court in Texas, like, holy shit. I'm surprised you're not swinging from a lamppost, frankly. But no, he did that. But I think the biggest problem with their case was they had him picking her up. They had surveillance video in the hallway of him and her walking to his hotel room, and they had surveillance video of her leaving the hotel room, but they could not prove that he had sex with her. And I think that's the big problem that they had.
This is why I just don't take those cases. Yeah.
Yep. Because I think his initial assertion was he paid her to leave. Not like the Charlie Sheen meme, but
yeah.
But basically, I think it was like I don't know if he found out she was too young and just was like, here's your $500, leave or something. But but he ended up, the plea deal ended up trumping all of that. But it was like, that was the problem, was they couldn't do it. And, the other problem is, if you take that before a jury, I mean, he might be technically guilty under the law. If he had indeed had sex with this girl, who is 16, the age of consent in Texas is 17. But the problem that they had was, she said she was 18 on the website and told him that. And that's not an actual defense to this crime, that she represented as 18. She had a fake ID, looked 18, all of that stuff. However, you put that before a jury and they might just say, fuck you to the government, because like, what was he supposed to do is the question. But tough case. And he stepped down from bit. He's back as CEO, I think, of Defense Distributed, though. Okay, sorry. Back to James Shart. What would the serial number rule mean towards neighborhood gun turn-ins? Would it cause problems with 3D print receivers? That's free money. No, if you're manufacturing for yourself, there's no serialization requirement at all, even with the new rule. That remains the same. So presumably, if your gun turn-in program is accepting unserialized self guns, it shouldn't be any different.
No, the obligation's on them to serialize.
Right.
That's their expense.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Make them serialize a whole bunch of stuff
that they're about to destroy anyway.
Randy's retired says, I think most gun serial numbers can be effectively removed by TIG welding steel filler rod over the serial number. That's very illegal.
And I'm not going to comment one way or the other on it because.
Yeah, don't. We do not advise engaging in illegal activities, and we suggest that you contact a lawyer in your state to discuss the specific legality of that within your jurisdiction. Ricky Hendricks, bad thing about FFLs going out of business, all records have to go to the ATF, and that's a registry.
Yes, and the new rule, meaning that they can never throw anything away, the records will always go, plus it incentivizes going to the computerized system, which is easier for the ATF to grab copies of, because when they do those audits, rather than coming in and sitting down and spending a week poring over paperwork, they just say, well, give me a flash drive. And then they keep the flash drive with all the information on it. Yeah, it's a registry. Everyone knows it.
Eric Duff is screaming in chat, she was only 16, you sick fuck. Yeah, I know. But he didn't know that. What?
Is that a movie quote?
It might be. I don't know. But I'm not saying that it was acceptable. I'm saying that his lawyers did a fantastic job, and I made the video on how to do I said defending Cody Wilson, but the video was an uncomfortable defense of Cody Wilson. It's how you do it. It's how you have to run that legal defense for the criminal charge. It wasn't that he should be fine. I mean, but the question, this is one of the issues with that, is it's a strict liability issue. If the girl represents to you and has other people represent to you that she's 18, how do you ever actually know that she's not? Now, what Cody shouldn't have been doing was anything with an 18-year-old, because he was significantly older, and just find a chick who's obviously 25. Like, just do that. You'll be okay. But it is a troubling area of the law as far as criminal defense goes, because it's one of the few areas where we put strict liability on something and someone may not actually have any means to find out the answer. If she forges a driver's license, how do you check? How do you ask? How do you verify that? You have no idea. So in his case, she went on a website that was for 18 years or older people. You have to affirm to the website that you're 18 years or older. You have to register for an account. I believe there might be a credit card lookup or something. I'm not sure what the requirements. I don't know if the girls have to do that or just the guys. I don't know. But you have to do all these steps that would indicate someone is representing themselves as 18. That's the argument that you make. Now, the way the law is written, doesn't matter. That's on you, quote unquote, buyer beware, is what one of the judges said. Not to him, but in an older case. Just date older women, the judge said. It's like, oh, okay, I guess.
Well, they're the ones with the money, so I mean, what?
Yeah. Gotcha Son says, Nikki, do me a favor and DM tug this. Y'all. Okay. At some point. Nick, don't talk to any 18-year-olds. The only time I talk to anybody that age or younger is when I'm teaching. That's it. When I teach at our homeschool co-op, I don't want to talk to anybody who's under 40 anymore. It's like, it gets tiring. Meth Bear says the just in case nature of red flag laws feels like domestic violence restraining orders. Repped a dad in a divorce case whose wife got 6 TROs for the same facts before dismissing at a hearing before I was retained. Denied visitation for 1 year over nothing. Yep. Domestic violence restraining orders are weaponized in custody cases over and over and over. And in divorce cases, even when children aren't involved. And it's really, really frustrating. And especially if they can manipulate the timing of those things to make it really hard for you to get a quick hearing on them. Like in Minnesota, you can get a hearing within 5 days if you respond within 5 days. But if you don't, then you have to wait at least a month to get a hearing. And sometimes longer as the court schedule permits. And it's a pain in the ass. And so if they play their cards right, where it's hard for you to get into an attorney for whatever reason, you can get a restraining order to lock in for a lot longer, even if it's bogus. An ex parte order, even. I hate it. Doug Murray says the person who super chatted about TIG welding off a serial number is probably a Fed plant. Smeg Skull says, when is a gunsmith a gunsmith? Can shops not make repair a separate legal entity to offer repair without having to serialize?
So there are changes to the gunsmith rule or gunsmith descriptions and all that in this rule that said, even if you're a separate entity, gunsmiths still have to keep a book. It's actually a separate book from the shop's transaction book, but gunsmiths keep their own transaction book and would still be required if they keep it overnight to serialize. And if you're a gunsmith properly, you're going to have an FFL. If you're not an FFL gunsmith, then you're doing stuff that's not technically gunsmithing. And don't get into that gray area.
Yeah. When it comes to gun manufacturing as a commercial enterprise, be as above board as you can be, is my recommendation. That's the best plan. You really don't want to become an accidental illegal gun trafficker. that seems like a life choice that you don't want to make, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Revco, shouldn't the rule of lenity be the applicable standard instead of Chevron deference? It seems moronic to allow a bureaucracy to determine law. Sure. You won't find me disagreeing.
But that's an ideal world.
Yeah, it's supposed to, like, the rule of lenity should apply, but it doesn't, unfortunately, to a lot of this stuff. The end is near. Beware says, if I remember correctly, one reason they raided the Branch Davidians was because they were gathering AK-47 lowers and uppers. Where is the AK upper?
Oh, okay, so there's lots and lots of misinformation about the Branch Davidians, and I could go on a rant about that. Whether or not they ever actually were making machine guns was never really proven. There was some evidence that maybe they were buying the parts, but in the end, it all mysteriously disappeared in a fire. Go figure.
Thank you, Janet Reno. Angry Dragon 556 says, Nick, have you seen what's going on in Grand Rapids? I haven't seen what's going on. I've seen the video of the man getting shot in the back of the head by a police officer who is attempting to make an arrest. And he keeps telling the guy to put his taser away, and he pulls the gun and eventually he shoots. I couldn't see a taser, but I couldn't see the guy's hands from the video either. And there's the guy taking the video says, man, he doesn't have a taser. And then I think he says right after that, oh wait, I see it. So like, I don't know. It's, it's a weird situation. This is a questionable shoot. It looks a lot like an execution, but who knows? We've got a 30-second clip of this guy wrestling with another guy. He's on his back. He's on the guy's back. And I mean, he pulls the gun, he pops him in the back of the head while the guy's on the ground. It seems like the cop is not in danger at the time, not in specific danger, but Could he make the argument that if this guy, happens to roll him, he's going to get killed? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see the taser. If he had a taser or something, that changes the story quite a bit. So, Supreme Ruler of Universe says there was a taser. Last Fraction Zero says there's more footage released. He does fight over the taser with the cop. See, there you go. That kind of changes things. The question will be, as Branca always says, at the time that he makes the shot, was he justified? Was he in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death? Or was someone else in the community in that danger at the time he makes the shot? That's the question. I'm not sure that he was, frankly. He might have been, but he's on the guy's back. The guy's on the ground struggling, but he's not pointing a taser or a gun at the cop at the time. No one else is around at the time. He's not hitting the cop at the time. It's that's one of those tough cases. The cop could have been in fear, though. I mean, the guy overpowers him. He could die really quickly. So I don't know. I got to look at it more. Cars in Depth. What if you could use a 5-axis CNC machine to do everything needed to make a receiver from a blank billet with a single file of G code? Isn't that the Ghost Gunner 3 effectively? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the issue would be is if they're selling the blanks with the Ghost Gunner, then I think the ATF would say, oh God, that's a kit. But if you've got a Ghost Gunner and are just buying these blanks, you're privately making firearms. It's legal. Just remember, if you make 50 or more a year, you're paying a tax on them.
The Engaged Few says, what's going on in Minnesota? Here in West Virginia, I can go out in my backyard and kill a deer without a license if I say it was in my garden. Oh, God, I'd build a garden in a heartball.
South Park. It's coming at me.
It's coming right for us. Yeah, it's coming right for us. Brabble Master says, no, south, you can use a shotgun. North, you can use both. It's an old rule for higher population, closer ranges between hunters, just hasn't been changed. I thought north you couldn't use a shotgun. Are you sure? You probably sure. You probably checked more recently, but I thought when I read it, it said that you could not. But I don't go north, so I didn't really care that much. I just cared about south. Corn Pop's Revenge says, funny joke for AFT. Step 1, acquire euthanized dogs from your local pound and take them to a taxidermist. Step 2, pack stuffed dog full of tannerite and set stuffed dog near entry points to your residence. Step 3, profits.
In Minecraft.
You got to put a little thing that makes it bark too, like woof, woof. Blam. Let's see. AD says Calder versus Bull says that ex post facto only applies to a criminal case, a case from 1798. Minor Zircon. Benjamin is awesome. Good get, Rackets. Hey, thank you. I agree. Pretty good dude. The end is near. Beware says, I am a stamp collector and not by choice. Nope, not postal stamps either, but stamps cause the government thinks it's illegal to own items unless you pay for the right. Extortion is the word for it. Kimberly Campbell, our prosecutor really dropped the ball on the FedEx shooter. Hist says, what do you think the outcome of the brace classification is? Many disabled people depend on them. How is it not discrimination to outright ban these? Take the case through the ADA. See, sue the government under the ADA. See how it goes. It's got to try some different theories here.
I'd take that case if the money's there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's got to be a sponsor for that case, right? Right. There's got to be like a disabled sporting shooting group or something that would fund that.
I imagine FPC will take the case. I mean, they're going to file the lawsuit anyway.
Ryan Cannell sucks cock says the government regulating black powder seems racist. It is.
Well, they regulate white powder too, to be fair.
Are they separate but equal regulations?
No, it's a bit harsher if you've got that white powder, I think.
Well, that just kind of fits in with 2022, I think.
Yeah.
Space and Goat says, hey, another Northern Hoosier. Howdy Doodly Champion, the Diddly Doodler, says, thoughts on the mayor from hell, Glenn Jacobs, formerly WWE's Kane. Wait, Kane is now the mayor of some place? Oh, okay. Daniel Tome says, I live in Huntington, Indiana, up by Fort Wayne. Damn trains. D what sent a wrecked sticker. Thank you. Bobby Lane. Howdy, Nick and crew. I had a great time at the strip club tonight, and I got to come home from my favorite live stream. Keep being unbreaded. Oh, awesome, Bobby. I hope you had a good time at the club. C Goody says preaching is greater than auto-tune. This reading was breaded. You're never happy, C Goody. Corn Pops Revenge says this is for having the bravery to be so very based between re-weld demilled part kits and drill that third hole, baby. Just don't tell anyone. TJ says,
it's like your college hookup.
What was it? Yeah.
Drill the third hole, but you don't tell anyone.
TJ says, I have the same flag as your neighbor, Nick. Fuck Joe Biden and F you for voting for him. Also have a Trump 2024. F your feelings, lol. And I'm in Philly. F them all. He also says Hilti gun is for shooting nails into concrete and uses a 22 casing blank to fire it. Oh, okay. So it's like a nail gun that uses combustion rather than pneumatics.
Yeah, they're designed to be legally blank firing non-firearms.
Brabblemaster says every ATF agent needs to be ended and their kids and wife to cry over it for years. Only then will we end their will to keep doing this. I wish there were a better solution than that, personally. Randy's retired says, I know it's illegal to remove the serial number. I'm saying requiring the serial number is worthless. It's easily removed. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, most people just do it with a file, right?
Yeah, they have methods that can still raise the numbers depending on the method you use to remove it, which is all I can really say about that. But there are ways to do it right. There are ways to do it where it will still be found and it's still legal.
Doug Murray. Rackets. Oh, excuse me. I can ask my Branch Davidian buddy to come on your show. He left the compound a year before it all went down in Waco. Look him up, Wallace Kenneth. 200 Watt Studio says, love the guest. Didn't know Babu Frick was a lawyer. I don't get that reference at all. Colfade 2A wannabe Hunan Muhammad says, make the stuffed dog sound like it's barking. All hail the snack. Oh, wait. I'll holla snack bar. Bark. Oh, damn it. Bogey 34 says, where do people who believe in the Big Bang Theory think the stuff that banged Bigley came from? I don't know. I think they think it was a singularity where all matter was compressed into one tiny space. But I don't think that the Big Bang is like, I think there's a more nuanced version of the Big Bang as the current theory now that involves quantum jitters and a chaotic soup that then fluctuates. I don't know. It's fucking weird. Who cares? That's the end of the super chats. And that brings us right to the end of the show. Benjamin, you have been a phenomenal guest. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
It's been my pleasure. I've really enjoyed learning a lot about gun law and this new rule, which I had, again, without reading it fully, had the completely wrong idea about it. It's in ways much better and also worse than I thought it was, which is great. Kind of how the government does stuff, I think.
Pretty much.
So do you want people to follow you on anything at all? Like you have your Facebook page.
I have my Facebook page. No point in following me on Twitter because I really just use that to enter gun contests because free guns are fun. And
do you win free guns?
I used to. I actually have owned about 6 or 7 guns I've won in raffles or contests.
I don't win shit from anyone ever. So that's my luck.
Well, one of my little tricks is that I do for charity raffles, I write their terms and conditions in exchange for 1 ticket to the entry. I get a lot of raffle entries that way.
There you go. That works. All right, man. Well, hey, I'm going to play the outro to the chat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, making this a fun stream. Make sure you check out Benjamin on Facebook and ruin his day by giving him a bunch of shitty Facebook notifications all the time. Because I hate
them.
Oh, yeah, but when your phone's just sitting there going zzz, 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 I want that to happen to you. I want your day to be miserable due to Facebook notifications. But man, we'll have to have you back on again to talk some more guns and stuff. And I appreciate it very much. Fubar1 says, second channel name, what a racket. We'll see. I'm liking Ricada Raw right now because the idea is that it's not entirely law related content, and so something else would be good. But all right, guys, thanks a bunch. Benjamin, if you want to hang around through the song, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But I like to say goodbye in private, especially to first time guests. So to the chat, y'all have a good night. Peace.
Oh, he drinks a fair bit, but you realize that it just helps get his noggin jogging along. With his glass by his side and his kids asleep tight, we'll hear some law-splaining tonight. With his microphone muted, we'll laugh at this boomer until he explains it's all part of the plan. Watch his face become redder as he becomes meta, raging at idiots from Twitterland. From the white shores of Maine to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, make the law what we have now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an Ardbeg, a Balmore, a Lethbrook, the spirits flow as the ones who get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the T-post on Twitter, as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dante to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career. Get unemployed. So pour out a glass for the T-post on Twitter, as we hear law-splaining tonight. From the white shores of Nairn to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who explains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed, to make the